Okay, so apparently I'm live and going live, so I'll just go ahead and begin the discussion on DNA observations and predictions. So, okay, so apparently here I go. I'm live and going live, so I got something else on here. I'll just go ahead. Must be this one. And begin the discussion on DNA observations and predictions. Oh, I do got one open. Okay. Okay. So apparently, anyway, so here we go. That was interesting. Okay, so we got some interesting things here. As I noted before, they have everything coming from the A, the B, and then somehow the BT goes to the CT, well, the C through T, C through E. But the reality is that this E over here, where is the E? This E over here, this E here. This E is the one that produces the C and the D, which is over here. So this E produces the C and the D and the A and the B. Okay, so this is what they got mixed up. You can see it's totally mixed up here as far as what they're trying to say. Okay. Let me see what I got here. Okay. There's Lena. She couple minutes. Hate, love, nothing. Jungle, Lena Power. Hello. Hate, love, nothing. There you are. You said you would watch. Oh, but okay. I sent an invitation to Dapper Dino and Snake, but I don't know if Snake wasn't even planning on coming, I don't think. But maybe Dapper Dino will show up. Because I think he had some questions about it or something, I forget. So, here we go. What do we got? Yeah, so back here, we have the E would be the progenitor of the C and the D and the A and the B. So the A and the B are on the extremities. Their family tree, or their branch of their family tree, branches off from the E. The problem is that there's an E3. What they're showing here is an E. Let me see. What's this? Is this America? We got E in America. They got. I gotta check that out. E and the B. Let me see. Let me double check here. There's Dapper.
Hey, sorry about that. I was on a call and it was an important call. I couldn't just drop it. So.
No problem. No problem. No big deal. I just gotta turn up the volume so I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I can try to get myself to be a little bit louder too.
No, I'm good, I think.
Okay.
All right. So can you see Can you see the screen? I mean, you can see the screen, right?
I can. It's like infinity.
Yeah. Infinity is a good thing. It's evidence. But anyways, it's another rabbit hole. Yeah. So, have you ever seen this chart here?
I don't think I've seen that exact chart, although it looks somewhat familiar. Are we doing Y chromosome haplogroups?
It's Y chromosome haplogroup. Yeah.
All right.
But
Well,
what's interesting about it is that it shows these colorations are from different parts of the world. It shows where these Y chromosome, where these haplogroups are found throughout the world.
right.
So here, the orange is Africa. The brown is America. So we got some brown E's in America and some brown B's in America. But I don't know if those are just showed up in the percentage of Native Americans they tested or what.
I
Because it's
gotta say
probably
one design point. This is for anyone who's making charts. Do not contrast orange with brown because brown is orange. Please don't do that.
well. I have a pet peeve in that they should have had the colorations of these. Whenever they do colorations, it's all confused, especially with the Y chromosome. This is a different chart. This is
Okay.
geographic locations. But when they do different colorations of the Y chromosome, they should separate them into different groups. Like the A, B, C, D, and E should be one kind of color,
Yeah.
and then the F, G, H, I, and J should be another color.
Oh,
Because
and
those are
Lena said hi. Hi, Lena. Or is it Lena? Lena? I don't know. I have an aunt
what's
named
that?
Lena. Oh, someone
Huh?
said hi to me in the chat, and I just want to say hi.
Oh, hold on. Is Lena in the chat?
Yeah.
I mean, is Lena here? Let me see if I can get her in it. Oh, she's not here yet. Oh, would you give me wrench so that I can post? Okay, hold on. Wrench. I have to go to the other one, I think, to give you a wrench. Let me see if I can
Yeah,
find
you
it.
have to be on the actual YouTube chat, either from your studio or from the watch link.
Yeah, let me see if I can. Where is this? Um,
Oh, hey, my image finally finished. It only took an hour and a half. Goodness. So what is it we're trying to learn from this chart? What is the goal here?
we're looking at the different Y chromosomes right now in the different geographic locations here.
Right.
So what I want to do, I want to go to I have to find my live stream.
Oh, it's so weird to see that YouTube not in night mode. I put night mode on every website I can.
So I have to go here. I have to shut up the volume. Different geographic look. Okay, and then I got to give Lena a wrench here. Add moderators, that's one, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
add moderator. Yep.
Okay, Shalom, Jesus is Lord. There you go. Hey, Wildheart, how you doing? All right. Now, let me figure this out. Oh, we got two Dapper Dinos.
No, one is the screen share, just in case you wanted to take a look.
Oh, that's a screen share. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Well, we'll hold that. We'll hold that, and maybe that you can share something too.
Oh, it's not a
And
big deal. Hi, Lena.
Hi Dino, hi JJ. No, JJ, do not worry. In case that I have found something interesting, I can post it in the private chat.
okay.
Do not worry about the wrench.
Oh, okay. I gave you a wrench anyway already.
Oh, thank you.
So, yeah, we were talking. The reason why I have this live stream is because Lena had some questions about some of the genealogies or something about the European Y chromosomes and stuff like that.
Okay.
but I was just starting out the live stream with this sort of an introduction here.
And JJ, we can also look up the Proto-Indo-European Warheimat hypothesis. I don't know if Dino Deep is aware of that. Sorry.
It's okay.
We can look up the mainstream hypothesis. There are three hypotheses about the Indo-European Warheimat. This is the origin of the Indo-Europeans.
The Indo-Europeans, is that the mitochondrial or mtDNA, or
Both,
which would it be?
both. There are genetic. There is genetic
Markers.
information about the Y chromosome. There are researches also about the mtDNA, but mtDNA is not a good indicator, as far as I know.
Okay, here's some this gray, all this gray here. Here's an interesting map. You can see all the gray, right? The light gray and the
Yes,
dark gray.
yes.
That would be the European. And we can go down here and look everywhere where there's a light gray, and we can see where what is found where. So we have the light gray has the I1 and the I2 as expected. It has the J1 and J2 a little bit as expected,
Yes.
and the T, which is Semitic. These are all Semitic here. Over to the G is Semitic, and the H2. Oh, we got an H2. We have the H2 is almost exclusively, well, there's only one sample, I guess, in Europe. So we have the R, a large percentage of the R, and the Q1, 2. I would expect to see a lot more than that. And the N, there's a lot of N's too. So there's a light gray and a dark gray of N's. There's a lot of R1 and R1A a little bit. You can see these symbols, right?
Yes.
And there's an H2, which I didn't realize there was. Well, it's not that much, but it seems to be found in Europe. Okay, so the N's. As far as I know, is the Europeans are N's and Q's and R's. You follow that, right? In Europe.
Correct. Most of them are. Wait a second. I'm
Yeah.
also searching for a map now. Give me 1 minute.
Oh, goodness. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was trying to
Yeah.
silence my
So
phone instead it made sound.
right, a lot of them are R. You can see a lot of them are R here. This is a huge population. I mean, huge, percentage. And the Q, I would expect to see more of them, but I guess I got Q1s. But of course, they're in America too. The Q1s are in America. They always got this backwards. It's always backwards. The extremities are 1, and the other ones are 2. The closer ones are 2. I mean, the closer ones to the tree trunk.
I have posted a link in the side chat.
Okay.
JJ, can you click on it? There are a lot of maps there. The site is called Indo-European. It's Indo-European .eu.
Okay.
If you go down, there are very good maps about the distribution of the Y chromosome haplogroups in Europe.
Okay, this is the R1.
Mm-hmm.
It would be this darker area in these areas, right?
Correct.
And this is the R1B,
Correct.
M269. Okay, here's the R1, the L32 or 23, and the R. So they're different R's.
There are different R's of R1.
Yeah, R1s, R1Bs. Of course, they're all in Europe. A lot of Europeans, English and etc. are R's.
Exactly. And this site where a lot of genetic research is presented and you can find a lot of maps, they are actually fans of the so-called Kurgan hypothesis. So I don't know if it is the correct English pronunciation, but wait a second. I will post also further links in the site chat so you can open and see them.
Okay. I'm just, are these all just Indo-European? Are they all R's or are they other people, other groups too?
I suppose that there are also other groups. Yeah, there are a lot of maps, and each map is for the distribution of the specific haplogroup.
Yeah, these look like they're mostly R here.
Yes, Europe. Anyway,
Yeah,
always.
Europe. Yeah,
And it is, if you go to Google and search for the specific haplogroup distribution worldwide, you can also see them on the right. There are a lot of maps. They are very good actually.
yeah. These ends are in the places where they should be, and of course the N's and the R's and the Q's are all related. They're all the
Yeah,
same family.
yeah. But wait a second. I will also post further links. There was a very good map on Wikipedia.
Yeah. Sea peoples behind the Philistines. That's interesting.
I mean, the Philistines probably had some relation to the Sea Peoples, although the Sea Peoples remain a fairly mysterious group. But
They were like I think they were pretty much a mixture of people.
they almost certainly were. We have most of what we have about them is just names of groups of them from Egyptian and Akkadian sources, and they were given various names, so it's likely that they were not a single group. But whether or not the
Yeah.
Philistines were Sea Peoples, it's unclear because one thing is that during the last stages of the late Bronze Age collapse, they were actually a client state of Egypt, which makes it unlikely that they were raiding Egyptian port cities. So it's
They were like, I mean, the whole Canaan, the area of Canaan was controlled by Egypt at one point.
Yep. At the height of the New Kingdom imperial period at the end of the Bronze Age, Egypt basically grabbed all of Canaan.
I think it was only after Israel left Egypt that they kind of like went down in their power, that they lost control of Canaan and the other areas because of disease and sickness and a whole bunch of other reasons, you know.
There were also numerous famines around that time too.
Uh-huh.
It was a bad time to be around at the end of the Bronze Age.
JJ,
it was horrible. Yeah.
I have posted also, JJ, I have posted one more link in the side chat. It is from Wikipedia, a GIF, and this is about a hypothesis about the Indo-European Urheimat, about the origin. And I don't know if Dinor is he very knowledgeable on that topic. Sorry, Daipa, I don't know you. I don't
No,
know
that's
if you
all right.
have it. Hmm.
So I do know that there has been some genetic confirmation of the Kurgan hypothesis, which basically says that
Correct.
the there's this archaeologically known culture from the steppes of like north of the Pontic Sea, and they have cultural similarities to what we might expect from speakers of Proto-Indo-European, and as well they Proto-Indo-European. You can get certain aspects of their culture just by reconstructing what did they have words for and what didn't they have words for, and the area there, like the northern Pontic region seems like the kind of place that Proto-Indo-European could have been spoken. And with the additional genetic tests, especially if I remember correctly from Y chromosome group R, it's one of the subgroups in R, I'm not sure which one. But it seems like a pretty reasonable hypothesis. It's also centrally located around the areas where Indo-European languages tend to be spoken. So Indo-European as a language family up until modern times, because now in modern times, Indo-European has largely dominated the globe. But in ancient times, Indo-European spread from basically all of Western Europe out into the Slavic countries, because Slavic say Indo-European language, and then all through Persia, down into what now is like Afghanistan, into most of India. Pretty much the only non-Indo-European Indian languages left are the remnants of the Dravidian languages in the southeast and south, so south and southeast. And yeah, all of that seems to check out, the spread of the language family from a central location, backed up by DNA, backed up by cultural artifacts. So, I mean, if asked what I think happened, I would say the Kurgan hypothesis is probably the closest we have to the actual events surrounding the spread of the Indo-European language family.
Exactly. There are in general three hypotheses, and I have JJ. I have posted another link in the side chat about the Proto-Indo-European Warheimat. If you click on it, you will see that on Wikipedia there are in general three hypotheses about the Indo-European homeland. Yeah, Urheimat is the German word, but normally people use it. So there are. So this is the Kurgan hypothesis, which includes the Yamnaya culture. I hope that I pronounce it correctly, because I'm also I'm Slavic, Daipa. I'm Slavic, and I don't know if I pronounce the words.
Tell.
Yeah, you can tell exactly. So the Kurgan hypothesis is it includes the Yamnaya culture in contemporary Ukraine, and there is also this Armenian hypothesis, and there is one more hypothesis. It is about the origin in Turkey, as far as I can remember. Wait. There is Anatolian. It is called Anatolian because Anatolia is in Turkey.
Yeah.
But most scholars and scientists are in favor of the Kurgan hypothesis, which is actually this a Proto-Indo-European homeland in the Pontic Caspian steppe. It was started by Lithuanian scientists. She was a woman, Maria something, as far as I can remember. This Kurgan hypothesis. Wait a minute, I will check.
I don't see the Kurgan hypothesis. Oh, maybe I'm not looking.
Maria. It is Maria Gimbutas. Maria Gimbutas is I don't know if it is the correct English pronunciation, but she was Lithuanian.
Lithuanian, but what's the name of the hypothesis?
It is the Kurgan hypothesis.
Because
Wait,
I don't see it here. Do you see it?
on that link, wait a second. Proto-Indo-European homeland, and then if you go,
Got outlier.
if you number 3 in the contents, step hypothesis, and then there is this Gimbutas Kurgan hypothesis.
Oh, Kurgan, I see. Yeah, this one here.
Kurgan, yeah.
Okay. Okay, a main consensus emerged. Indo-Europeans in favor of Kurgan hypothesis, named after Kurgans. Burial mounds, Eurasian steppes, Indo-European homeland, Caspian steppes. What do you call them? Steppes or steppes?
Steppes, yeah. Steppe is a general term for sort of a slightly area dominated by ground cover and not having much in the ways of like forestation or anything like that. So nowadays it's basically the same thing as grasslands, but it is technically a little bit more of a broad term because there are some steppes that aren't dominated by grass.
Okay. Like this.
Yeah, that's a steppe. Yeah. So like the Pampas in South America?
Yeah.
That's a steppe.
Okay.
Sorry, I was gonna say like the American Midwest, but I was like, oh wait, jungle jargon isn't from around here. I should use something closer to home.
Yeah. Well, I was raised in an American private school in South America, so I'm pretty much American.
Okay.
And it's just that I was located on the Amazon River. Okay, so which ones do you believe were the have to make most sense?
I mean, if you're asking me, I think that the Kurgan hypothesis is reasonably well supported. I mean, it's always tricky with archaeology and especially with pre-literate cultures, which Indo-European speaking groups didn't become literate until well into the Bronze Age, and this was all starting if I remember correctly, the Kurgan culture starts sort of like the early Bronze Age, and they don't have a whole lot of interaction with literate societies, and they become literate separately in many different areas. Like the Hittites were an Indo-European speaking civilization, and they learned to read from the Akkadians who inherited cuneiform. And then the Greeks and Latins and Etruscans all independently, to some extent, adopted various ultimately Phoenician-derived alphabets. And then
at least my theory is, or it's not a theory, it's what I believe happened. I don't know if it would be more the Turkish one, where they landed in Turkey.
Okay.
Because this is the mtDNA haplogroup, the chart. The mtDNA. Notice how you have a lot of people represented in this area right here.
Yeah.
Which would be Uzbekistan and this area around Turkey. Seems like there's a lot of people represented here in the middle. And as you go out to these ends, it kind of like isolates into different family groups. Can you see that?
I do, although I also noticed that the circle with the most diversity is not in that area.
With the most, well, there's Egypt, but Egypt is understandable. But like, see, this is Turkey here. There's a lot of people represented here in the center location. Well, this is the cradle of civilization right here. Mesopotamia is right here. And in this circle right here is where most of the people are represented, and then they spread out from there. Of course, in the mtDNA, you have the L, 1, 2, and 3, which would be Africa. Then you have the M to Q, which would be the basically Europeans, but then again, there's a lot of Ns in the rest of the world too, that are all spread out through the rest of the world. For example, not the blue, not this color, the red. See, the red is an N. These red colors, that would be like the Semitic mitochondrial DNA, it seems to me. And there's a lot here in PO, which is Polynesian, which probably what spread to Americas too, spread from Polynesia, is what my guess is. But that's what I believe historically. For example, if we go to the Y chromosome pie charts, you have well, this is the Y haplogroup here. If I can get this map, it kind of shows the same thing as the mtDNA. Oh, come on.
I feel like in order to actually make sense of this map, though, we also need the previous chart, which showed the degree to which the different groups are similar and related. Because just looking at the map won't help us much, because all we have are colors, which are hard to then map onto what that means in terms of diversity. So, for example, if you're looking at, say, the mtDNA, right? It looks like there's a whole lot of diversity right there in Northern Africa and Central Asia, right? Or perhaps the Near East. But one of the problems there is that, say, all of M is more closely related to all of, say, A through O than it is to L. There's actually there's less diversity than it looks like because of the way that we color code things. So one of the problems that we have here is that when you're showing this diversity, all of that diversity that you're seeing outside of Africa actually exists within groups that have their strongest presence within Africa. So all of that you're seeing is a subset.
Okay, well, I'm going to show a little bit what these sets are. As a matter of fact, when I was showing this one here, this shows what the expectation is in the timeline. Of course, you can see the timeline goes back millions of years or whatever. So this is the A, the B, and the E in Africa, and then there's the D in Africa. C is not in Africa, and most of D is not in Africa.
Can we zoom out a little bit though, so we can get more of the chart in the single frame? Is that possible?
Which one?
I've done this chart, like maybe if you hit like Control and mouse wheel down.
Well, let's say
I just want to be able to see more of it at one time.
It's a copied picture.
Okay. Well, how about we stop here, right here, right? So,
yeah.
Right now we have D, which is in Africa, right? D is more
barely. D is barely in Africa.
But now D0 is more closely related to all the other Ds than it is to any of the Cs, but it's also equally related to G and O and all these things. But if the thing is, if we go back up a little bit, I want to see where, so we have this AT split here, and who cares what the number on the timeline is? But if we scroll down,
A through S, A through S, A through T or S or whatever. Yeah.
So one of the things that means though is that if we go down to the bottom where we can actually see all the labels, right?
This is B through T.
Yeah. So
C
I just want to have
T.
So that means that everything from B on is more closely related to each other than any of them are to A. And since A, B, and C are all coming in Africa, that means that the entire chart is within African diversity.
C is not represented.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to say D. I'm sorry about that. That's my mistake. But so what we're getting at here is that we have all of the non-African lineages are a subset of the African lineages.
That's what the claim is.
No, that's what the data is.
And
Because
that's
A, B,
no,
and
that's not what the data is. That's what I want to disprove. That's what I want to disprove. It's not what the data shows.
then
Because
you're
when you
going to
get
have
into
to run a new you're going to have to run a new phylogenetic analysis.
yeah, well, I'll have to take you to the Simmons Genome Project here. Which
So
is hard.
Oh, sorry.
It's hard to find it, but it's here. This one here. This is a good one here.
Genetic history of the Israelite nation. Okay.
This one here, yeah. This is the these are the family. These are the actual genetic distance, the actual family trees, and you can see the C, the D, and the E. Well, this is an E2. It's not the E3.
Okay.
And the E1 and E1 and the A and the B. They all stem down to the same family tree.
Well, we do see them sharing nodes.
The Semitics are over here. The F, G, H, I, and J are over here on their own family tree. And the Japhethite Europeans, these are the Europeans we were talking about, the R1s and the Qs, and the O's and the N's and the T are on their own family tree.
Right, but you haven't rooted this tree, so we can't interpret it to determine which group is actually most distantly related from other groups or which groups are a subset, except after we get past some of the early branching nodes. Like, we can say pretty clearly that, say, all of, say, R1A, because there's what looks like a polytomy, that's all one group. But are they actually the sister group to the entire rest of the tree? Or are they sister groups to R1B? Now, we actually have good reason to think they're sister group to R1B, but that we can't actually determine that from this chart because it hasn't been rooted.
I don't know if you can see, but there's genetic distance between here, this tree, and the Semitic tree. And there's a genetic distance between the Semitic tree and the African tree.
Right, but without a root, we can't tell which group actually can be used as the reasonable hypothesis for the geographic origin of this genetic diversity. You have to root the tree. And the problem is that when you try to root Y chromosome haplogroups, A becomes the outgroup to the rest of humanity, and the rest of humanity nests closer together than either does to A.
Show me then how this group here or this group here comes from this branch, this twig of this branch here.
By rooting the tree there.
But
See,
it's not
an unrooted tree.
It's not rooted here. There is nothing rooted here. This
right,
is
because you're showing an unrooted tree. You're picking a particular kind of diagram where it's difficult to make that kind of determination.
Well,
but everyone everyone who tries to root the tree with
it's like a code. You know the Y chromosome. Have you taken a Y chromosome test?
I did the 23andMe, which I don't think actually gave me my Y chromosome haplogroup, but I would have to double check on that. Maybe they did. I don't remember it.
It's very interesting. You can go to Family Tree DNA and they'll do a Y chromosome test. It's a little bit pricey, but it's very interesting because it shows you how how you fit into the human family tree, basically, and which twig of which branch of which trunk that you fit in. And it's like a code,
right?
Where all these people here are very similar, and the closest people similar to them are these people here.
But that's not the case, though.
Well, it is when you do the comparison, when you look at because there's different numbers of copies of the same information.
It only appears that way on this chart because you don't have a root. And so which node actually represents, or where in this we put the common ancestor of all these groups? Because remember, we don't disagree that all these Y chromosomes share a common ancestor, right?
Well, I can see. I have information to show what's going on here
Well, I'm just
because
saying.
I can show you. I can show you, for example, that the C comes from E3, which is not even on this chart. E3 would be down here somewhere.
Okay.
But I can show you how C and the D comes from the E3.
But not on this chart. You can't.
But
Because
I'll be able to show you.
You
Hold
have
on.
to read the chart in order to show the directionality of the descent.
Okay, hold on a second.
Okay.
I'll show you in a minute. I'll explain it to you, and you have to listen carefully to the explanation.
Okay.
What is this, family tree? This is family tree DNA. Well, give me the chart. Where's the chart?
It's a lovely deer.
It's a unicorn.
Oh, was it? Oh, is it?
No,
It's a Kirin, isn't it?
It's a what?
Kirin or Korin it's a East Asian mythical creature that's similar to a unicorn in some ways, but it's also kind of like a deer. I don't know. I have some Kirin knickknacks that I picked up in was it Hong Kong? I think it was Hong Kong.
Yeah. Okay, what's this? This is mother daughter. Okay, I'm looking for the map. If they give me the map, it's on Wikipedia.
Venus
Okay.
figurine.
I'll give it. This is what, a famous figurine.
Yeah, it's called a Venus figurine. They are common in Neolithic finds in Europe, and as well as like areas around the Mediterranean. It's not entirely clear what they are, but the most common interpretation is that there's some kind of religious object. But I'll be honest, archaeologists kind of just call things that they don't understand religious objects because it's easy. So every time an archaeologist says, "Oh, we think this was a religious artifact," I mean, maybe, but also maybe not.
Yeah.
So.
I'll get this here eventually. Hold on a second. Find it eventually.
Okay, there was a rooted Y haplogroup tree up there, right there. Oh, actually, I guess that's now. Okay, so technically they didn't put the root there, but yeah, they have it rooted at the A to B split. See, there's a reason for that though.
Okay, here's another one here.
That also roots it at the A to B split.
Yeah, this is what the claim is that C went to Europe and everybody else branched out from C.
But you see, it's not just a claim; it's a conclusion based on actually running the data through software designed to find where the root is. In order to say that this claim is wrong, you have to go through the data and show why their methodology was wrong, why yours is better, and then show that, in fact, rather than rooting at A, perhaps we root at C instead.
So here's what the problem. See the E3A? This is what the problem is right here. Okay. I can show you, and I can prove to you that all these A, B, C, D, and E came from E3. And that's what I'm going to show you right now in a little bit. As soon as I can find the chart, which is somewhere. Let me see. Hold on. I'll get it. It's world map. Okay, where is it? This one here. Yeah, there it is. It's not so complicated. It's a Wikipedia map, or it's on Wikipedia anyway. And here it is. Okay.
Okay.
All right. You can see this very clear, right? And then remember, the claim is that this A00 is where everybody came from, right?
Well, we would have been the ancestor of A00 and all the other haplogroups. So A00 actually would be a part of the first split in the haplogroup. So, not quite.
The first. So this would be the farthest down.
So you
This
see
would
why
be-
DNA, Adam?
So in other words, this would be the farthest down on the trunk of the tree, right?
Well, it would be the first split
It
on
would,
that.
yeah, it would have to be the first split on the trunk of the tree.
Yeah.
So that's what the problem is right here, because it's not the first split. Where's the Simmons? All right. Wait a minute. Here's the Simmons. Oops.
But
Yeah.
but
See,
Jumbo, here's what I'm trying to tell you. This chart doesn't
No.
tell us anything about the rooting. Literally nothing about rooting can be derived from just
okay,
this chart.
hold up.
Okay.
It's not something to get uptight about. See the C here?
Mm-hmm.
This goes way back into time, all the way to the same root. It branched off at the same time as the A1,
How do you know?
because I know what the name of the C is. I know what the name of the person of the C is in history. And I know that this A1 would be one of his brothers, and I know that this D is one of C's brothers, or else D could have branched off from C.
Then why does every genetic analysis disagree?
And
Like
the
every time
these other E2s,
anyone
yeah.
tries to actually use the data to produce a branched
Wait a
root tree,
minute. Yeah, but you have to, just hear me out.
okay.
Hear me out. See, I'm showing you the C goes way back into time to the same place in time as the A1. Okay, and that's correct.
But
So
that's not
when I
what you're
show-
showing me. What
Yeah,
you're
so
doing is
when
you're
I show you
explaining
this map here,
Okay.
you can understand why. Because in history, we have a known human history of the founders of these three people right here. There's three people here, plus another one is Canaan. Canaan is kind of like went off into the woodwork, but we have a very distinct separation of people here, which goes back to three different sons of Ham. So Ham had three sons. One of them was named Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is Egypt. And the other son was Put, which is the father of the Phoenicians. Now, this is the Y chromosome. This doesn't lie. And the other one was
You're
Cush.
not looking at Phoenicians, you're looking at Berbers when you did that. The Phoenicians would have gone up and to the east.
No. This is the Y chromosome. The Y chromosome doesn't lie. And the Phoenicians were in this area here. They were.
Colonized North Africa late in the Phoenician period, though.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when they colonized. They were in this area.
But
And
you
this is
realize
not
that the reason there's a
this
Middle East bit here up in North Africa and it's connected with the Middle East is because of this. And that same reason that the Berber population has a different split coming from what's basically the region of Egypt is because after the Phoenicians colonized North Africa, when they colonized it, there were already indigenous Berber populations who didn't speak a Semitic language like the Phoenicians did. They spoke a different branch.
It doesn't matter what language. It doesn't matter what language they speak. We're not going by languages. We're going
you're
by.
showing me agrees with both the cultural and the linguistic data.
I didn't finish giving you my presentation.
But at every step, you're saying something that's incorrect.
No,
every step of the way.
Hold on a second. Is Lena still here?
I'm here.
Okay, are you bored or what? Are you listening?
No. My problem is that I was never able to understand the chart that you have previously showing. I'm confused. I'm not bored.
Okay. Yeah, it takes some time to understand what I'm saying here. But this is a known person here. Mitzrayim is a known person.
Okay, so
Cush is a known person.
Okay.
And Put is a known person from the Phoenicians, which settled this area here. Okay. So
no, that's where it's not okay, because at this point
look at the Y. But look at the Y chromosome. See how similar they are?
Oh, I'm not disagreeing there. You just cannot call them the Phoenicians because they're obviously not.
E3, Y chromosome doesn't lie, and E3.
I'm not disagreeing. But what I'm saying is E3 isn't the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians were in J.
But hold on. We can verify this because of these two here. Cush is a known person.
Right. Sure.
Mitzrayim was his brother. Put was his other brother, and their other brother is Canaan, which went off into the woodwork. He's there somewhere. He's like E1, E2, something like that.
But we know genetically, culturally, and linguistically that the Phoenicians were not Berbers. They were Canaanites.
It doesn't matter. That's why we're not going by language. We're going by the Y chromosome that doesn't lie.
But your chart still disagrees with you that the Phoenicians.
It doesn't matter.
Too.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's known that the Phoenicians were in this area, and we have evidence of their Y chromosome, which is like their brothers in this area where the Phoenicians are known to have been.
Do we actually have that? What paper gave us Phoenician Y chromosomes? I mean, I'm not saying it didn't. I just don't know, because the chart that you're showing me doesn't agree with the claim that you're making.
Josephus said that Put is the father of the Phoenicians.
Okay, but where's that Y chromosome that you said that you had? What paper is that in?
No, this is in the area that the Phoenicians were known to have been.
But the papers known to be their rivals. If you want to claim that the Phoenicians, by and large, were in Y chromosome haplogroup E3b2, you have to actually present a known Phoenician remain that has been genotyped.
No.
Yes, that's how this works.
Listen carefully. Put is the brother of Mitzrayim, and which is the brother of Cush. These are all sons of Ham plus Canaan. Okay. Now, Cush had another son. You know who the son was? Well, you probably don't know. I'm asking a question you probably don't know, but
Nimrod.
There was a son of Cush who was very well known in history. In fact, he was the king of the whole world. Do you know who that son was? The son of Cush, who was king of the whole world?
I mean, there never was a king of the whole world, so I would just say
no. There was Nebuchadnezzar, but it was before the first basic king who controlled this whole entire area, this whole Mesopotamian area. Who was the king of Shinar? Do you know who that was? He was a great hunter, and his name was Nimrod. And he was king in the land of Shinar, which is Mesopotamia right here. And since he was king in the land of Shinar early on, of course, he's the son of Cush, but he never went to Africa. Since he was the king of the whole world in the land of Shinar, he had all these kingdoms all over this place. He basically ruled the whole place in the time of Abraham and everything.
But that's not the whole world.
Yeah, this was the whole world until the time of the Babylon. Until the time of the Tower of Babel.
But you're not providing evidence of that with this chart. You realize that, right? It's sort of like me sitting here with this presentation. It's sort of like someone coming in with a whole stack of figures, say, proving some mathematical. Well, let's back up a little bit. It's sort of like someone coming in with all this facts and figures about how light scatters and the different diffraction angles of various mediums and the differential pressure as you go down through the air column, and then concluding that therefore the sky is purple. And I look at all your charts and figures, and I look outside, and the sky is blue. What I'm telling you is nothing that you're showing here agrees with your claims, everything you're showing either fails to support or refutes. You have done nothing so far.
Well, that's what you would like.
That's what
that's
not what I
you would
would like.
like to see.
I
That's
would
what you
very
would
much
like.
no. I have a pretty strong bias in favor of there being a Tower of Babel. That would be great.
Okay,
That
okay.
would make my life a lot easier.
Let me back up a little bit. Now, you notice this is E3, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, why in the world is there no E3 on this chart? Do you know why? I'll tell you why. Because if there was an E3, it would be down here. It would be rooted down here, and it would show that the C came from E3, the A, the 1, the A, the B, and the C, and the D all came from E3.
But
That's why.
If E3,
that's why it's not represented on this chart, because it would uproot the whole thing.
But Jungle Dragon, hold up. Go back to
uproot this whole thing, because everybody, all these here, A, B, C, D, and E, they all came from the E3.
But can we go back to Simmons? No, the Simmons diagram. There you go. Okay. So I'm trying to indicate this without being able to, control the screen also. It's a little bit difficult, so please bear with me. So you're claiming that if E3 were present on the chart,
yeah,
it would socket in right around where you have your cursor.
Exactly.
But that doesn't root anything, because this is an unrooted chart. And even if you're correct, and I'm not necessarily just, it does though.
That's relative to the rest of the Ds. Relative to the rest of the Ds, E3.
But where's the root of the whole chart?
The first one. The A is not the first one.
How do you know?
E3 is the first one.
How do you know?
Let me just keep this thing from beep.
This chart can't help you with that. So how do you know that?
I know that the E3, that everything came from the E3, because I know because I know for a fact C came from E3. Right here. I know for a fact that the CY chromosome, which is Nimrod in the land of Shinar, came from Cush.
Okay,
because he's the son, because Nimrod, the C3, is the son of Cush.
Let me see if I can follow the logic here, because I want to understand your claim before anything else. Okay,
it's my prediction. It's the prediction. It's an observation and a prediction.
Okay, but let me see if I get I want to try and follow this train of logic. So I'm going to try and describe what I think is going on here, and you give me feedback about where I'm wrong. Okay, so we have biblical figures who are in the Bible described as founding certain nations in identifiable locations, right?
Right.
Okay, so we are then going to conclude that therefore, since these are all in this narrative, direct ancestors and descendants, whatnot, right? That the genetic evidence should bear this out. And since
these are the grandsons of Noah.
Okay. And so because of who is said to have settled where, we're coming to the conclusion that we should root that Simmons graph at a particular location on the graph, which would be essentially where the E3 would branch off from everyone else. Right at that point, that's where the root should be.
If Ham is the son of Noah and these three sons are sons of Ham, then that means everybody else came from these three sons.
Okay. Now, there's two things about this. One, the Simmons graph doesn't help you at all. It doesn't hurt either.
What?
The Simmons graph, it gives us no information about this because it's unrooted. So
because they didn't put the E3 in there.
No. It's because of the kind of chart it is. Right?
No, because these are all connected. These all belong to the same tree by their genetic code. Their genetic code determines where they fit.
But it's not a rooted tree. So no matter where anything goes on this tree, you can't use this particular chart to determine the directionality of the splitting because that's literally impossible. This is an unrooted tree. You cannot determine which groups split from when from this tree, because that is literally impossible. It's like asking me to find the corner on a circle. You cannot do it. It is the wrong kind of data. You need to be able to root the tree.
Do they belong to the same family tree? Do all Africans belong to the same family tree?
Only in the same sense that all humans do.
Okay, so how in the world do they know the C and the D belongs to the African family tree?
Because when you actually run the statistical analysis,
right, because of the code showing that it belongs to the same family tree. Because
right.
the code where it branched off, how it branched off shows that it belongs to the same. That's why they named them C and D, because they're belong to the African family tree, and they have the traits of the sub-Saharan Africans.
Jungle, what I'm trying to help you out here, right?
You know that the Australian Aborigines have the Y chromosome, right?
I mean, I don't off the top of my head know where every Y chromosome haplogroup comes from, but I'm willing to just accept that. I don't.
The Andamanese have the Andamanese are also obviously African origin people.
I mean, I don't disagree. There's good evidence to say that the Andamanese, as well as the surrounding islands and places like Polynesia and whatnot, that the native populations there got there very early on in the history of human migrations, and therefore they probably are only distantly related to other non-Africans. I mean, I don't. So.
No, well, the C and both the C and the D, they mixed autosomally with the rest of the population, and you can hardly tell their origin from the skin color.
Right. Well, skin color is one of the most highly mutable traits in human genetics. I mean, skin color can drop in a very short time, speaking, over the course of generations.
But some of the features do remain slightly.
Okay, but how does that help you? I want to tell you what you need to do to prove your point so that no one can refute it.
Well, for one thing...
No, I'm trying to... Please let me try to help you.
Okay, for one thing, we know these belong to the same tree because obviously they're named A, B, C, D, and E. We know they belong to the same tree. And the E3 is part of that tree.
Okay.
And the according to history, these are known people. I mean, there's no mystery. There's no mystery as to who Cush is. There's no mystery as to who Mitzrayim is or Put. They are the three sons of Ham.
Okay. Would you like to know how to prove it?
The name.
No, that's not going to help because those names were named
Mitzrayim. You know who Mitzrayim's mother's name was, and his sister's name?
I'll be honest, it doesn't really matter to me.
Egyptus. Okay.
I really don't think that's in the Bible, but okay.
One of the sons of Ham settled Egypt with his mother, who's named Egyptus. So there's no mystery. There's no mystery about it. Cush, we know who Cush is. We know who the Cushites are.
Okay, hold on. No, Jungle, I got to step back. You know that the Egypt comes from Greek Aegyptos, which itself was an exonym.
Greek is a later language. It's much later language.
But that's the problem. You're trying to claim that the word Egypt comes from way back when the whole place was founded by the first humans to ever go there, except that we know historically Aegyptos. Sorry, I'm a little bit of a dry mouth. I can't properly.
But you don't know which came from which though.
But we know it's an endonym from Greek because we know the etymology.
Where did the Greeks get the word? Where did the Greeks get the word? They got it from somewhere.
No, they are the origin of that appellation.
No, you don't know that. You don't know that.
I mean, we do though.
But regardless, we have we know Egypt is Mitzrayim.
Okay.
And we have this Y chromosome from the Egyptians.
See, the problem is when you say we know, what you're actually saying is this is what the text that I want to take as authoritative says. But that's a claim, right?
Well, if you can prove that the Egyptians were not Mitzrayim,
it can't prove it. It can make the claim.
no. Can you disprove that Mitzrayim is the father of the Egyptians?
Can I disprove that the grandson of Noah?
Yeah,
that there was
because right now you're just talking. You're just talking and trying to find fault.
Yes, I can definitely disprove that the grandson of Noah was the founder of the Egyptians, because there was no Noah as described in the
No, that's your assumption. That's your assumption.
No,
that's what you want to.
Of physics.
It's what you want to believe.
geology,
You don't have any evidence of that.
genetics.
I have the evidence. I have evidence. I have historical, archaeological evidence.
But there is no historical or archaeological evidence of the flood.
Yeah, because of course there is. But that's another
It's
subject.
not a shred.
Another subject right now. Right now we're talking about the Y chromosome.
Okay, but the Y chromosome isn't helping you here because you haven't rooted it in the tree that you're trying to
What do you mean it's
demonstrate.
not helping me? What do you mean it's not helping me?
In order for the Y chromosome to help you, you need to be able to
obviously
legitimize
it's a big problem for you.
It's
Obviously
not
this is a big problem for you.
If it were a problem
and
for
you
me,
still
then every rooted tree would agree with me.
You still haven't explained why they don't have the E3 in here.
I didn't make
Why
it.
didn't they put why didn't they put the E3 in there? The
Jungle
E3
Dragon.
is a major population. It's a
Jungle
major
Dragon.
population.
I don't know why the authors of this chart didn't put it in there. You would have to ask them. Maybe the paper for which they generated this chart explains it. I don't know. I haven't read it. But what I can tell you is literally nothing that could possibly be included on this chart would help your claim, because this chart is
I can tell you, and this is my prediction, that if they put the E3, it would be before the C and the D and the A and the B and these E's.
But it can't be before, because there is no
because it's backwards, because everything is backwards on this map. Everything is backwards. It starts out with the A00, A1, and the A1, the B1,
Jungle,
and then it goes to the E.
I sincerely want you to be able to make a better argument here. That Simmons chart doesn't have a backwards or a forwards. You can't put anything before anything.
It doesn't. Yes, it does.
No.
The C. You said yourself that the A branches off from the beginning. It's the first one that branched off. You said yourself.
It doesn't on this chart. It does on the rooted charts. This chart.
No. This is genetic distance. This is the actual genetic distance chart. This is the true information.
But it's also not rooted.
That thing that you were showing here, that is nonsense. This other thing.
Okay,
wherever it is, this thing here, this picture here is nonsense.
Which picture?
It's nonsense. because the C is the son of E in history.
No. In one text.
No. Come on, you think the Bible's the only historical text from the time? There's the book of Japheth. There's the book of Jasher. The book of Enoch. There's a whole bunch of books.
According to one culture,
and everybody knows that Nimrod, that everybody was wicked. Nimrod was the king of the whole world, and the only righteous person was Abraham.
Except that other groups don't share that same story. So
no, the whole area was ruled by Nimrod. The whole area.
Okay, but the Africans seem to have not noticed. So the same with the Chinese.
What do you mean the Africans didn't notice?
They were there before Nimrod.
Nimrod is the son of the sub-Saharan African.
Okay, Jungle.
Nimrod.
You're
the son of Cush.
Your point here is to try to demonstrate that the Bible is accurate. You cannot do that.
I'm looking at what the evidence is, and it lines up perfectly with what the Bible says. So what? And the book of Japheth, and the book of Enoch.
Don't know how to look at the
And
evidence because
every other record there is.
Jungle, I'm really, really trying to help you here. I don't know.
You're not?
I am, because you have evidenced that you do not know how to read an unrooted chart because you think that you can put something before or after a split on an unrooted chart. But that's literally impossible. You just can't, because that's not how unrooted charts work. Right?
No, but you can root it. You can root it in these three sons of Ham, and you can root it in Ham, who's also the father of Canaan, and you can root it in Noah, because you have these three groups right here. You have three groups.
You could root the Simmons graph in any of those ways. Yes.
You have A, B, C, D, and E in
Okay.
one group. You have F, G, H, I, J in another group. You have K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S in the other one. Those are the three groupings of the Y chromosome.
But
They each belong to their own family tree.
Of course they do. That's why they're grouped together. But this chart can't help or hurt you. This chart is useless to this question. Nothing that this chart could ever possibly show can either determine whether or not the Y chromosomal ancestor was Noah who landed in the Middle East. This chart.
So the I and the J belong to the same family tree, right? The I branched off from the J tree, right?
We can say that they share a closer common ancestor to each other than, say,
right.
They do E1, B1, but we can't say which direction this branching is going. Because the root could be literally anywhere except at the very nodes, because they're nodes. Oh, sorry.
And you see there's a distance here, probably because the missing E3 would go right here.
Whether or not it wouldn't help your claim, because you still have a chart.
And you can see that there's a genetic distance here. So all these have something in common here.
Okay.
Algorithmically or in their code as to having originated from the same trunk of the tree. All these originated from the same trunk of the tree, and all these originated from the same trunk of the tree.
But where is it?
That's what the genetic distance is showing. It's called genetic distance, and if you took a Y chromosome test, you would know that the Y chromosome is different numbers of copies of the same information. So if you have,
I am aware how the genome works in terms of coding, but
do you know how the Y chromosome is counted, or because there's actually two ways to do it, but that's.
Are you saying how the sequence is obtained, or how the sequence is written out? I mean, what? I don't understand the actual question you're asking.
Yeah, the sequence, the numbers are like 24, 12, 10, whatever, 18. 20, whatever, 30, whatever. Those numbers are different numbers of copies of the same information that everyone shares. And depending on the numbers of copies that you have, identifies you as to which family tree you belong to.
I'm sorry, the numbers of the number of the copies of the information?
Yeah, we all share the same information, but we have different numbers of copies of the same information in our Y chromosome.
Wait, are you claiming that different people, the differences between Y chromosomes is ultimately how many times the same segment repeats on the same chromosome?
In our Y chromosome, we share copies of the same information, but we have different numbers of copies of the same information. And depending on the numbers that you have of the copies of information in the Y chromosome indicates which branch or which twig of which branch, which trunk of which tree you belong to.
Oh, I want to point out that Lena is definitely right about the Arabic pronunciation and the official name for Egypt. And yeah, good luck trying to say that word as a native anything but Arabic speaker. Yeah, she put it in the chat. It's roughly Mesr. It's not easy to say. I mean, come on. A pharyngalized S followed by an alveolar tap. Just get out of here.
So, what is your problem with our known historical records of Semitics and the Africans and the Japhethites that went north into Europe? What's your problem with our known history?
Well, first, it's the things that you're characterizing as known history are, and this is coming from someone with a degree in history. Characterizing these stories as known history is completely wrong.
Okay, at what point does it become mythology? At what point do your ancestors become mythical?
Well, my ancestors aren't mythical. There is myth
Exactly.
about my ancestors.
Exactly. Your ancestors are not mythical.
Right, no one's are. What's your
Right?
But claims about who my ancestors are may well be mythical.
If you had a Y chromosome test and an mtDNA, did you do an mtDNA test?
I did not.
Yeah, I could tell you. I could tell you who. I could tell you which wife of which son of Noah that your mother's line came from.
Okay, let me explain what I mean when I say my ancestors aren't mythical. So, none of my ancestors came to an island inhabited by subterranean giants and strange, sometimes invisible creatures, whom they then pushed out of the island so that they could settle it for themselves. That's not a thing that happened.
Okay, you probably don't understand the story that they're telling to begin with, and even if they were, saying things that weren't true about what they perceived, they were still real people.
Right, but that's the thing. There's a difference between the actual ancestors who really existed and the stories that get told about people's ancestry. You have found a story about ancestry.
Right.
That the story exists is not evidence that the story is true.
No,
So
but
history, I will say to you,
the story of the ancestor is probably true. That there was an ancestor.
Well, there has to have been an ancestor because everyone shares
ancestry. Exactly.
But whether or not that ancestor actually corresponds to anything in the story that you're reading is a separate question. So you cannot call it known history because it got written down.
Right. Okay. But why do all civilization come to an abrupt halt 5,000 years ago or less?
Well, are you talking about the late Bronze Age collapse?
I'm talking about there is no other history before the known civilizations of Hindu, Egyptian, Chinese, and Semitic.
Well, first of all, those go back farther than 5,000 years.
5,000 years. Look at their calendars. All the calendars go back to 5,000 years and no more. They come to an abrupt halt at beyond 5,000 years or less.
Well, all modern calendars are more recent than 5,000.
It's not modern. The ancient calendar of the Mayans, the Hindus, the Egyptians, and the Chinese are all 5,000 years or less. And there is no other history going back beyond known ancestors, known historic events, which go all the way back 5,000 years, almost.
Okay. So what? We have archaeological evidence and older calendars that go back farther.
So you can't make up history.
Egypt starts more than 5,000 years ago.
So you're making up history that's not there.
No, it's literally in the ground. We can find the actual inscriptions of the Old Kingdom.
No.
They exist.
No. They exist on top of the sediments deposited by the global flood, so they happened after the flood. Sorry.
There was no global flood.
Of course there was.
No, if there were a global flood, we would find a globally...
that's another discussion, but we can go into that too if you want, but that's another discussion.
Look.
I'm talking about the actual human history.
First of all, actual human history does not include a universal idea that 5,000 years ago there was a flood, or 4,000 years ago there was a flood, or anything like that.
Oh, they all have stories of flood.
Yes, because floods happen everywhere, but very few cultures overall actually have a story about
But
an entire global flood.
but a significant
The
flood,
ones-
not just any flood, the flood from the beginning of creation.
But most of the populations that do have such a story are either from related ethnicities, where the most likely explanation is that they share a single
No.
origin,
No,
or
no, from all over the world, they have stories of the flood and creation combined.
look, not even Egypt has a catastrophic worldwide flood. The closest you can get is the
No,
chaos.
no, you have to. Have you ever done a study? You've never done a study on the flood legends of the world. Go study the flood legends of the world, and you'll see
You're
how,
talking to a
how
guy.
many details. You'll see how many details of the different flood legends from around the world, not just in one location, that are similar. A lot of them have details of bad people before the flood. They have details of 8 people on the ark. They have details of a big boat and animals that were saved on the ark, and animal and birds released. Some of them have birds released.
Jungle, are you aware that for my degree, I had to work in original language manuscripts in
Did you study the
Egyptian,
flood
Old
legends?
English? And I
Did-
certainly did study Egyptian legends. There is no
No.
Egyptian flood legend.
No. Well, and I asked you if you studied the flood legends all over the world or and
Every flood
compared them.
legend around the world, no. But if you would like to send me a list of them, along with at least the
It's
translation,
a little
original.
bit late now to try to backtrack and say that you know something about it.
Look, it is absolutely the case that not every culture has a flood legend.
So
And if you would like me to take a look at a whole bunch of given ones,
it's not about what you don't have; it's about what you do have. That's what I'm trying to impress on you.
but it's not significantly unusual to think that multiple people would have legends about floods. Lots of people have legends about lots of things.
Especially if they came from the same place in Mesopotamia. If they all came from the same place and the same family.
If they did, that's great. You would have to find a way to root the tree there. And I encourage you to actually get a hold of
What do you mean a way to root the tree? It's the only history we have. We don't have any other history. All of our history goes back to these founders of these civilizations.
Jungle, you are currently operating in history at the same level that a flat earther operates in geography.
No. Yeah, that's just a flat out statement, baseless statement. Come on.
It is, though, because
No,
Have you ever-
because these are the founders of civilization right here.
no,
Right
these
here.
are the mytho-historical founders.
No, these are the founders. This is Kushite, even has this name, Kushite.
It has the name because of the legend.
No, because of their founder. And Mitzrayim is right here. And
Which again, has
the
the name.
Phoenicians is right there. And you can tell it's put from the Phoenicians because it's the same Y chromosome. They're brothers.
But Jungle, you realize that these names that we get in English are endonyms based on people who were familiar with these stories giving these names. Or sorry, not endonyms. These are exonyms. These are names given to these regions and people groups by other people who were already themselves heavily influenced by the Bible. That's not what the people there call themselves.
No.
Egypt
They're not
wasn't
influenced by the Bible. Since when are the Egyptians influenced by the Bible or the Kushites or
First
the
of all,
Berbers?
but modern Egyptians who call themselves
And besides, I'm not going by any story. I'm going by the Y chromosome. Can you see this E3B, E3B, E3B?
yeah, except E3B doesn't correspond to Phoenicians.
Sure, it does.
Oh, it doesn't.
Because that's where they were located. That's
But
where
that's-
they were located. And
all over the Mediterranean jungle.
but he's a real person. He's the brother of these other two in Canaan.
Jungle, why aren't you saying that R1B is Phoenician? There were Phoenicians in Iberia.
Because R1B is Japhethite.
How do you know?
Because everyone up here are Japhethites. They're all from the north. They settled in this area here, and they just went north. They went all over the north.
Phoenicians were found in Iberia, They were found on the Italian peninsula. They had colonies all over the Greek islands. At least at
Okay.
first, they were then pushed back a little bit. But they had,
And their Y chromosome is there too.
but their Y chromosome is in the J group.
No, this is the major. This is showing the major populations. This is not everyone in the population. If you want to go to that, you have to go to the other charts to see that.
But it's on the chart that you're looking at.
The other charts. You have to go to these charts here.
Is
These
labeled
other charts.
for a reason.
You have to go to the other charts. Let me see. Where's the others? Where's the other chart? Come on. Pie chart. Here we go. This is the Y chromosome chart.
Okay.
So you have to go to the Y chromosome, this chart, to see where the majority of the people are.
But
And-
that shows you where the majority of different haplogroups can be found at the same place. But that doesn't tell you where they came from. That just tells you current haplotype.
Okay, yeah. But if they came, see, they were trying to say this area here
Yeah.
is where everybody came from, but
Right.
not everybody is represented in this area.
Which
This is
what-
only like, this is like 3 or 4 haplogroups, or 3.
So, what is a haplogroup?
You have
You haplogroup.
A, the B. In Africa, listen, in Africa, you have the A, the B, and the E. That's all you have of the African family tree.
Well, we go to D0.
The C and the D are not in Africa.
But that's only meaningful information if we can actually root the phylogeny. And if we can root it someplace that is outside of an AB split, or sorry, that's
We can root it in the E3.
you can root
E3
wherever you want. The question is, where does it actually root when you crunch the number?
E3 is the original population.
That's great, but you have to show it. You have to show your work. Do the math.
I did.
You
I
didn't.
did show it. It's right here. Kush, Mitzrayim, and Put. Those are the 3 skins I have.
None of that is data. Get the sequences are online. You can just pull them in. Get a phylogeny program. Get it to show you a rooted tree that corresponds to your prediction, and that'll be great. Publish it.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. I'll have to do that if I can figure out how to do that. But
I can
you can
point you in
see.
the direction of people who can help you with that, who know how to run
Okay.
phylogeny programs,
So
where to get
Nimrod was king in this whole area, Mesopotamia, in the time of the Tower of Babel, right? And afterwards.
you would have to prove that there was a Tower of Babel.
Well,
The closest
we don't have any other history. We only have history of
No.
these locations that can be found.
We have Sumerian history going back farther than the Bible says the world is old.
No,
We do.
Is a person. You know, of the Chaldean, that's a person. That's a Semitic person, descendant of Shem. Is like the great grandson of Shem.
You know, there was no real Romulus, right?
I don't care. I'm not talking about Romulus. I'm talking
That's
about
the thing.
I'm talking about a place where there's a city named after him.
But
I'm
there
talking
isn't.
about where there's a city named after
But there isn't, though. There's a city
And
with a
there's-
name.
and
That was
Cush,
given-
that there's a people named after him. I'm talking about actual archaeological locations that are well known in history, of which there were kingdoms. Nimrod had kingdoms all throughout this area here.
But what I'm telling you is if you were to go and dig in and look up the actual cuneiform texts, the earliest stratum doesn't contain a story about the city being founded by a dude named
Yes, it was named and was a person.
No. It was named and then later, when the mythical history of the city was being written down, they came up with a mythical founder, just like
You know they excavated right? You know that, right?
Yes.
You know they found idols, right, or figurines, right?
Of course, they find those everywhere.
Yeah, but they're pretty significant in because those idols. There was an idol maker in You know who the name of the idol maker was?
JJ,
it was
would you take a look at
Abraham.
the private chat?
Abraham's father. Yeah. Sorry, everybody, if I'm going off here. Hey, Barack.
The private one.
The private? Okay. Hold on. Wait a minute. Do I have to stop sharing?
You shouldn't have to. There should be something at the bottom. You just have to switch to your StreamYard window, which I don't know where that is. That might be in a different window. Do you have a separate window open that has the or I guess it's an Edge, yeah.
Okay, private chat. Where's the private chat?
It's down 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the one with the there it is.
Oh,
Which
there
you
we
can
go.
do by mousing over. There we go.
Why did you just tell me? G-Man was.
I wasn't sure, but Lena was sort of trying to keep it like sort of like on the DL, so I figured maybe she had a reason, and I wasn't going to mess with that reason. So,
oh, it's me.
You know what I remember?
Your brother, G-Man. What are you doing? I'm in the hood right now.
Oh, you're in the hood.
I'm on the block. Yeah, I'm on the
G-Man,
block.
what I remember most about the last time we talked, which I guess was technically the only time, was that I liked your taste in movies. That's what I remember most about you, is that I like your taste in movies.
Okay, I remember the conversation. It was respectful for the most part.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not here to come and ambush anyone.
Gotcha.
So,
But I got to correct you about something. You said that there were no Egyptian flood legends, right?
Well, there are no flood legends about a global flood wiping out the Earth. Because the Nile does flood, there are myths about flood.
And if you can share this jungle jargon, the fact is it didn't take me long to find this. All I put is Egyptian flood legends, and they showed up here. I found this fairly quick.
Okay.
So the reason why I'm showing you this is that every civilization or every culture back then.
Oh, hold on. Are you sharing? G-Man?
One second. Every civilization back then
isn't showing it, so I want to make sure that we get to. Because if you want to show me something, I want to be able to see it.
Yeah, just go to Google and type in Egyptian flood legends.
I'll just do that real quick.
Go to Google and type in Egyptian flood legends, and you will see that they had a flood legend, just like every other civilization back then had a flood legend. So Jungle Jargon was correct when he said that.
Okay. Is there any particular link you would like for me to go to?
I can give it to you here in a private chat. Give me a
okay.
second.
Yeah, I'll do that then. That'll work. Because I definitely want to see what you're looking at.
Raw's asking a question: Was Babylon a myth?
Oh, the city? No, Babylon is a fairly well-known location. It's been excavated.
Right.
I mean, but isn't
it's a whole area. It's a whole area.
Oh, this is just what happens when I type that in.
Yeah, but there are Egyptian flood legends, and there were flood legends by every culture back then.
Okay.
But I want to talk about DNA proving that God exists, though, because that's a little bit different than trying to prove evolution is true. I definitely feel like that's a.
Okay, so hold up. What this has to say is the flood myth in Egyptian mythology involves the god Ra and his daughter Sekhmet. Ra sent Sekhmet to destroy part of humanity, so it's already not a global flood, for the disrespect and unfaithfulness, which is fair enough, which resulted in a great flood of blood. However, Re intervened by getting her drunk and causing her to pass out, so she didn't actually even get to really do the flood.
Right.
So what I'm getting here is, at one point, a bunch of blood fell from the sky and killed a small part of humanity, and you want that to be the parallel
That wasn't the argument that Jungle Jargon was making. Just listen for a moment, okay? Jungle Jargon was making an argument that after the flood, when these different nations were started, or these different countries were started, that they all brought a flood legend with them. And the story does not need to be the way the Bible tells it. All it has to be is a flood story. Because Noah and the people that survived the flood and their ancestors would have a version of the story that they would tell in their particular country, and they don't need to be identical. If they are exactly identical, then you know there's a forgery there, or it shouldn't be trusted or anything like that. But if the stories are slightly different, then you know that there's some credence to the argument that Jungle Jargon is actually making. So
I agree that there's no reason to expect them to be identical.
No, they wouldn't be identical because
I'm agreeing with you there, G-Man. I'm on your side there. They should not all be identical.
But Dapper, have you ever seen this here? This chart?
Yes.
You have?
Yeah.
Doesn't it show flood legends from all over the world being very similar?
Well, first of all, no, it doesn't in all cases, because there are many areas there that just don't actually have any representation there.
But
So,
they do have things in common, many things in common.
like universal destruction is one of the most common. Destruction by water would have to be because it's a flood story. But there are also things that almost never occur, such as divine favor on saved, or survivor's worship, or man in transgression. Most of these don't include any of that. And so what I'm saying is not that the stories have to be identifiable, but that
this is
I would like
evidence this is evidence that we have. It's not making up evidence.
I would like to finish the sentence. Is that possible?
That's the difference, because you're making up evidence.
Jungle, can I finish the sentence?
Sure.
Okay. My claim is not that we shouldn't expect there to be flood legends, or that we shouldn't expect them to have certain commonalities, but there are ways to, or that they should be identical if the flood story is true. What I'm saying is that there are ways to show whether or not certain stories or legends actually go back to a single source. And we cannot show that for flood legends, which also are not exactly universal in terms of anything resembling Noah's flood. A story about a flood that happened is not evidence of cultural memory of a global flood. You would have to have something more substantial than that.
No, you don't. No, you don't. And on top of that, we have a lot of science to back up the things that we believe regarding the flood. I know that a lot of evolutionists don't believe that the flood actually happened because they don't believe that it was scientifically possible. I don't know if that's your position, but we do have science on our side concerning this particular topic, as well as the stories, as well as fossils, as well as a whole bunch of other things to prove that the flood actually happened.
Whether it's scientifically possible is an odd question, because, like, is it scientifically possible for the exact interpretation that's usually given by, say, young Earth creationists to have happened? No. Is it physically possible for the entire world to be covered in water? I mean, I don't see.
Yeah, it's physically possible. There's enough water on the planet to flood the entire world, because you got to remember, according to the scriptures, this water came from the sky, this water came from the sea, and this water also came from underground.
Remember, God opened up the floodgates of heaven.
Right, and it came from underground, and there's a bunch of water that was underground during that time. I think there's still water underground now. Okay, there was water that came from the sky. Hold on a minute, and then there's water that came from the sea, and 70% of the planet is water. So it's not hard to imagine that enough rain came down to be able to flood the whole planet.
Well, there is, though, because there isn't that much water around. We would have to have a very different planet.
No, there's enough water here. The Earth is 70% water.
Right, it's 70% coated. 70% of its surface has surface water on it. But if you were to condense out all the rest of the water and then melt all of the ice caps, you wouldn't actually get a globe entirely covered.
We're not looking at the ice caps, so we're looking at the water that came from underneath the ground, the water that came from the sky, and we're looking at at potentially the seawater coming to land too. So again, you can't just say that and I'm not saying that you're saying this, but evolutionists have a habit of saying that it's not scientifically possible for the flood to happen. They'll bring up mountains, they'll bring up the saltiness of the seawater and things like that. The fact of the matter is, science is on our side with this particular topic. I don't have to argue like Ken Hovind to be able to show that, though. You know what I mean? If you want me to show you why I believe that scientifically, I can show you.
I would be interested in seeing that. I don't know if I would want to see it as a extemporaneous thing. I think that might be best left for a video or an essay, although I would be curious. But I will say, when I say that the flood is physically possible, what I mean is there's no contradiction in physics about a whole bunch of water sitting on the surface of the Earth. But in order to get it to do that, we don't currently have enough known water. So you're going to have to propose unknown water reserves, which is great.
Again, there's water underneath it, and I highly recommend you speak to Nephilim Free, because he's extremely good at talking about this. But there's a lot of water underground again that came up. There's water that came from the sky, and then obviously you have the water from the sea. And we don't know how much water was in the sea back then. We don't know how much land it was back then. We don't know these things. All we do know is that there was enough water to flood all living life back in that time. So, and again, you have science with this.
But currently, we don't know about enough water to make that happen that exists on Earth. So
how is it that we don't have enough water? And the Earth is 70. I'm sorry. As far as the oceans and the seas and lakes, it's 70% water, meaning there's only 30% land. And then you have all that water that's underground that when it came up, and then the water that came in the sky. And you got to remember, at that particular time, there was a firmament. You know what I mean? It was a greenhouse effect. And for the first time ever, all the water that was above actually came down to the earth.
Okay,
so I'm not understanding how you're saying that we don't have enough water to flood the earth. That's ridiculous. It can rain tomorrow and do that. Come on.
I will give you an example as to how it is possible for the earth to be 70% covered in water, but still not have enough for it to be 100% covered at all places. Okay, so this is just a little experiment, right? Let's say we set up a tank, like a fish tank, right? And I put in some, those little fish aquarium things, like little rocks or whatever, right? And I fill it up enough so that right now, 80% of the surface of this fish tank is just covered in water, right? But then some of the rocks stick up above it. That's the 20% that's left over, right? Now, to simulate the fact that we have, atmospheric water and whatnot, I'll boil off while keeping this thing sealed. So all the water's still in there. So now we can have a situation where 70% of this area isn't covered in water, but there's steam at the top, which could condense down. And now we have a situation where 70% of the system in question is covered in water. There's water in the atmosphere that could fall on the rest of it, but you still don't have enough water to cover it 100% because
the water came from underground. The water came from underground, and then it actually rained, and it rained for a certain period of time. You do have water. Because you got the water. Hold on a minute. You got the water that's on the earth, and then you got the water that's coming from under the earth, and then you got the water that's coming from the sky.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is,
not to mention, if we discuss how the fossils are actually found, evolution doesn't support that. But what will support that if there was a global flood?
Actually,
in other words, are you finding fishes on top of mountains, and things like that. Especially when you can't prove those those so-called fish remains or fossils are millions of years old.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
Actually, it all actually corresponds very well to evolution. That's one of the reasons why there's no actual serious debate about the topic.
Yes, there is.
There isn't, though.
I'll prove it.
I'll prove that there's serious debate.
The dating method that was used to determine, and I would like the exact dating method that was used to determine how old that fish was.
Which fish?
The fish remains that was found on these mountains. I would like to know what dating method was used, since you said science, has already proven it.
I would need to know which specific
you believe that this stuff isn't debated.
G-Man, if you want me to tell you what specific dating method was used, you have to give me a specific find so that I can check.
Okay, so
I'm
telling you that they found fossils of fish on top of mountains.
Okay,
which I'm telling you. You're telling me that, hold on a minute. You said that would be evidence of evolution, and it's not even up for debate. In order for that to be true, you got to be able to show me a dating method.
Oh, I didn't say it wouldn't be up for debate. I said there is no serious debate. Those aren't the same thing.
There is a lot of serious debate. I don't know if you're new to the great debate community or not, but there's a lot of debate to have on this, my friend. I can assure you of that.
But
and to prove it, what dating method did they use to determine how old these fish are? These fish fossils are.
Sorry, was that a question?
Yeah, I want to know what dating method was used.
It depends on which fossil is under discussion.
Okay, when you show me what fossil that you're 100% confident could not have possibly been 6,000 or 8,000 years old or whatever, and you believe that it's millions of years old, and you give me a dating method, then I'll answer your question. But I need a dating method since you said this is not.
So you want me to just pick a fossil?
I would like you to find a fossil that we use to say that this proves the flood, and then you show me a dating method that shows that it could not be right. That's what I would like for you to do.
So
since you said it's not for debate,
would any fish fossil found on any mountain be a sufficient fossil for this exercise?
Not anyone, no. But
then
I would like for you to show me how it's not up for debate, since I know that the dating methods.
I didn't say it wasn't up for debate.
I know that the dating methods are flawed. Matter of fact, I bet you this. I bet we both know that the dating methods are flawed.
G-Man, I'm not saying that it isn't up for debate. I'm saying there is no serious debate. There is a difference there. Everything is up for debate.
Serious debate. I'm telling you, it's some serious debate. I can assure you of that. And we're talking about fossils right now. We're talking about, and this is why I wish in that debate on modern day debate, I would have gotten to the fossil thingy with Erica. But I can assure you, there's plenty of debate, especially when we're talking about the dating methods. Are we talking about carbon-14? Is it carbon-14 or carbon-19? I'm not sure.
Well, carbon-14 is a dating method for biogenic material up to a certain point. It's not generally used for.
So what dating method was used? I want to know if it's universally accepted by all scientists and whether or not it's been debated by them, because I'm pretty sure
which methods were used are going to depend on which ones we're talking about. I can't just say that all fossils are dated by this method if they're fish fossils.
I go back to my positive claim then. My positive claim is that we're finding fish fossils on top of mountains that would suggest that 6,000 or 6,000 or 6 or 7,000 years ago that there was a flood. And I don't have to prove anything otherwise until you actually show me how scientists have found the same remains and have proven that these fossils are millions of years old, hundreds of thousands of years old or something.
Would any, say, actinopterygian fossil found on a mountain constitute a sufficient example?
I'm not going to say any. All I'm saying is that I want you to show me why it's not up for debate. What dating method are they using? You haven't given me a dating method.
No one's saying it's not up for debate. You're trying to ask me to prove a claim that I'm not making.
Okay. So, so then me and you are in agreement then that the fossils that are found on top of these mountains, you know what I mean, that would suggest a global flood and not biological Darwinian evolution would be actually true, and there's no debate for it, right? We're both in agreement with that?
I don't even understand what that statement means. You agree that the fossils are true?
I believe that the fossils show that the Earth is only about 6,000 years old, and that those fossils may be only about 6,000 years old. I don't think we're talking millions of years old. And until you give me a dating method, you're making blanket assertions. You got to give me a dating method, because I can tell you why carbon-14 doesn't work if you want.
I would like to, but I would first like to establish that an example I might use would be valid, but that seems to be impossible.
Let's use the example that you want, just for kicks and giggles. I would like to know what dating method you're using.
I'll tell you what. Here's my plan. I'm going to go try to pull up a paper on some fish found on a mountain, and then we can actually look at what dating method was used, because generalities is kind of pointless. So
I'm not making generalities. I actually want to get into it, but I need a dating method. See, I actually agree with jungle jargon that DNA actually does prove that God exists, but we would have to get back to that. But first, I want to have some fun with the whole flood thingy. I want you to show me what the dating method is, and show me why it's universally accepted by all scientists, which we both know is not the case.
Well, I would never make the claim that any dating method is universally accepted by all scientists. I don't know of any statement that's universally accepted by all scientists, because
including evolution being true. You're right about that. I greatly appreciate your honesty. Thank you.
Okay, so let's see.
If you want, you can go get Erica, because I've been dying to get her in like a second discussion. If you want to go get her.
I mean, I happen to know Erica is currently knee deep in.
She openly admitted that when it comes to the Bible, this is not her strong suit. So.
Erica is currently knee deep in writing her master's thesis.
Oh, okay, great.
She is and is also very frustrated about it. I get to hear about that all the time. So
okay.
I'm trying to get enough information to find a good actual. Let's see. So, all right. So let's see. Would a stratigraphic paper about the what is it called? I'm probably going to say this wrong, but the Spiti Valley, which is in the Himalayas. Would that be an interesting example to look at? Because that's
who wrote the paper? I'm just curious, because I know a lot of peer-reviewed papers are biased towards evolution. So, who wrote the paper?
1 second. It is by Trilokan Singh, R.S. Tiwari, Vijaya, and Ram Awatar.
Are they evolutionists?
I have no idea. It's from the Institute of Himalayan.
So go ahead.
So I can say this: they probably are not biblical creationists, because I am very confident that at least one of them is a Sikh, because his name's
I can assure you that I know creationists here on YouTube that will tell you that they believe the Earth is older than 6,000 years old. I can promise you, I can name a few people who believe that. So it doesn't matter whether or not they're biblical creationists or not. The issue is whether or not they're being biased towards evolution. Because I noticed that when people who are biased toward evolution write their papers, their science isn't always right. But let's still hear what they said about this fish that they found in the Himalayas.
I hate PDFs that you can't search. It means I have to actually just.
I want to know what the dating method was. That's all I care about at the end of the day.
Well, I mean, we can also just pick a dating method that's commonly used.
Okay, we can use carbon-14 then.
Well, no one's using that for these fossils, or really fossils in general. Why don't we pick, say,
why are they not using carbon-14? Let's establish that first. Why are they not using carbon-14?
The half-life of carbon-14 is too short.
Yeah, carbon-14 is just flawed. You know what I mean? In terms of like
no. That's like saying why doesn't anyone measure the distance to the moon with a yardstick? It's not because yardsticks are flawed. It's because
no. Not the way carbon-14 has been proven to be flawed. Not the way carbon-14 has been proven to be flawed.
Okay, how is carbon-14 proven to be flawed? Let's just pick it.
Okay, because telling people that these fossils are like millions of years old, and it's turning out that these things are actually less than 100,000 years old.
No one is doing that with carbon-14.
Yes, they are.
Carbon-14 is not used on fossils.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
no,
so
carbon-14 can be used on fossils.
Well, sure, you can put anything.
When it is, it shows a young age, not an old age.
You can put anything into a carbon-14 test chamber.
Yeah, and then sometimes you'll get it accurate.
Because they don't want to show that it's young. They don't want to show that it's has a recent age.
Do you have an example where that's happened?
Actually, I do.
Yeah, dinosaur bones have carbon-14. They shouldn't have any in them.
Well, no, they should have some because
no, they don't. No, they shouldn't. No, especially if they're millions of years old, according to you guys.
No, neutron capture happens subterraneously. That's a thing, and carbon-14 is generated by I can't talk.
Yeah, you can make up all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
And by the way, you can fossilize.
I'm sorry. Hold up.
You can fossilize a bone in like 2 weeks. You don't need millions of years to fossilize something. As long as you do it in the laboratory and you do it in perfect conditions, you can fossilize something in way less time than millions and millions and millions of years. I just want to let you know that.
Well, I don't disagree. Fossilization can and often is a relatively rapid process.
Right. So again, you need a dating method that's reliable to be able to show that these fish are millions of years old.
Well, since no one's using carbon-14 to show that a fish is millions of years old, why don't we go with something that they are trying to use to show that something is millions of years old?
But I want people to know before we go forward that the reason why they're not using carbon-14 is because it's flawed.
No, it's because carbon-14
has been shown to mess up its dates on various different occasions.
What it has been shown to have is limitations. For instance, we know of known carbon reservoirs where the carbon is unusually old given the trophic levels actually present in the environment. For instance, one of the reasons why marine fossils marine organisms aren't normally carbon dated, because the carbon, by the time you get to the bottom of the ocean, has already been around in life forms for a long time, which means
it's used for diamond, crude oil, coal, and dinosaur bone marrow.
Yeah, I would expect to find it in all those places.
Yeah, and all of those things has been found to be less than 100,000 years old. None of them has been found to be millions of years old. If you go by carbon-14. So it's a flawed method.
Do you have a specific example we could talk about on any of those?
Huh?
Do you have a specific example we can go into on any of those? Because simply stating that
I got the first of the for January 1. I actually got something funny going on G-Man versus Erica on my GTV channel. I'm hoping she'll show up. But if she doesn't, I'm going to still do my lecture.
Okay.
Responding to one of her videos. I'm tired of her calling me an ape. I'm not an ape. And I don't believe Jungle Jargon's an ape. I don't believe you're an ape.
I mean, you can see me. I'm clearly a dinosaur.
I just had an email discussion with Erica on that.
I mean,
I forgot to invite her.
G-Man, I'm right here on camera. I'm obviously not an ape. I'm clearly a dinosaur.
Yeah, why would you want to go backwards anyway? Like you're way more than a dinosaur.
That's not backwards. I object to the idea that going dinosaur is backwards.
They're extinct and we are not.
Hey, look, Ceratosaurus may be extinct, but dinosaurs are not.
Oh, you're talking about the birds that's going?
Yeah.
Today, one of them.
Those are just as much.
Yeah, right. I totally believe that the Loch Ness monster probably does exist. I'm totally sure that human beings are correct about seeing dinosaurs in the Amazon.
Speaking of Loch Ness monster, have you looked into the recent eDNA results from Loch Ness?
No, I haven't. How did that go?
Well, it didn't go well for the Loch Ness monster being real.
Oh, but people still, there are still hundreds of thousands of people, literally all over the world, that claim to have seen it.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, you know.
But look, I've seen a UFO. I don't think that aliens are visiting Earth.
But you believe that aliens probably exist, though.
Uh,
You got to. If you believe in evolution, don't put yourself in a corner.
No, I don't.
So you're telling me out of this gigantic universe, the only planet that's got life on it is Earth?
Maybe.
Maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
Doesn't your theory of evolution work in the sense that you have to have some complex chemicals and have some lightning hit it?
No, you're thinking of abiogenesis.
Come out of it. I know it's abiogenesis, and you get it's called chemical evolution, right? And
no,
and
it's not.
Yes, it is. It's chemical evolution. And then you get like this cell that becomes a self-replicating cell. If that can happen here, I mean, they've proven that water is probably on Mars. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure if it's on Mars, and it's got to be somewhere else in this vast universe of ours where there's another planet with some water on it. Okay. If you believe in it, you have to believe that aliens are possible.
No, that's yes, first. Do I believe that they're possible?
Richard Dawkins does, and a whole bunch of other really smart people does.
G-Man, you're equivocating here on what claim you're trying to refute here. If you're trying to
refute nothing,
if you're trying to say that my idea that there might not be any non-terrestrial life, then you can't say that I believe that there is no. I don't believe there's no possibility. I said I don't have an actual belief on the existence of non-terrestrial life.
But you just got finished saying that's like saying that there's aliens in outer space. You're telling me as an evolutionist you don't believe in that you don't believe that there's another galaxy out there somewhere, according to your theory? That there are aliens?
I know that there are other galaxies, but I have no way to know whether or not there are aliens.
Yeah, no way to know it. And with all of the vast scientific information that we have regarding the diversity of life here in the not in the United States, but here on the Earth, you can't reasonably come to a conclusion based on abiogenesis and Darwinian evolution. Are you serious?
I don't have a good theory for abiogenesis, so I can't really make conclusions about it.
Abiogenesis is not science. I think me and you are on the same page with that, but you know.
I doubt that we're on the same page, but while I don't have a theory about it, it means that I can't really make firm claims, which means I won't. Which means, could there be life on other planets?
How you feel about Richard Dawkins saying that? How you feel about Richard Dawkins saying that there's probably intelligent life out there?
Good for Richard Dawkins.
Well, Richard Dawkins has been doing this longer than you, though, and he has a degree too.
That's
how do you feel about him saying it, though?
But I
don't know what the odds are. Do you know what the odds are, Dapper? For life writing instruction here on Earth?
No, because we don't have a theory that would explain it. So we can't know the odds.
Okay, so it would have to come from outside then, right?
No. I don't know the odds are not the same as therefore.
Well, then, what's your explanation for where it originated from then?
What's the it? I want to be very clear because
the instruction for life.
Where the instructions for the first life came from. That's the question. Where did that come from?
Yeah, well, that's what we were talking about, right?
Okay. I just want to make sure that because sometimes I feel like I'm answering a question and then the response indicates that maybe the question that was being asked is not the one I answered. And I want to make sure that I answer the question that's being asked. So if the question is, where did the quote unquote instructions for the first life come from? The answer is, I don't know.
But on Earth or outside of Earth?
I don't know.
You said,
but you just said, but you said that
the first life that you don't know.
Hold up, there's too much crosstalk.
You said it didn't come from Earth, right?
I did not say that.
Okay, so how could instruction be written on Earth in a timeline that you have?
I don't have a theory for abiogenesis, so when it comes to that, all I can say is some people have some ideas. I don't know which one of them, if any, are correct. So
what about the Uri Miller experiment? So you're saying that you don't agree with the Uri Miller experiment, right?
I mean, there's nothing to agree or disagree with. Uri and Miller managed to make a racemic mixture of amino acids and a few other chemicals.
So basically, you can't tell us anything, right?
Well, I can tell you lots of things, but just not things I don't know about.
In other words,
but that's what we're talking about.
is not science.
Yeah.
Well, abiogenesis is an open question in science, but if anyone tries to tell you this is, well, if it weren't an open question,
don't know the answer. It's a don't know the answer in science. Doesn't mean it's
that's what an
scientific.
open question is.
It's not scientific.
An open question is
Science is
literally
what you can
something in
verify.
science that we're trying to figure out, but we don't know the answer.
It is a guess. I know what happened. Maybe some complex chemicals happened in some soup, and then some lightning hit the water, and then maybe possibly this living cell came about and survived in all of that ammonia and all the other dangerous chemical compound, and then it self-replicated. And then, that's how you get your diversity of life. You know what I mean? So if you can't even tell us where the first life form from, then it's not science.
Okay,
so Dapper, you can see what the problem is, can't you? Can't you see what the problem that we're having with your assertion of life
I can see.
Itself? Can you see what the problem is?
Here's the problem that you're having, right? This is a bit of an analogy. So let's say that G-Man and I we're driving down the road and it's winter time like it is, and I don't actually live in a place where it gets icy, but let's say that we're in a place where it gets icy. We're in Colorado or something, right? And we see a car that has skidded into the ditch, and we get there and we take a look and we see that there's some tire tracks leading from the road. We investigate the road, we see some dry ice. And so I say to G-Man, you know what? I bet that this car slipped on that black ice on the road because you can't see it, because that's the whole point of black ice. And then it lost control, slid into this ditch, and there's the tire tracks through the snow into the ditch. And G-Man says, yeah, but I don't know but you can't tell me what address that car started from, so we can't trust any of that explanation.
You know what?
And that's
what?
I
bet that the CY chromosome comes from Nimrod because there's nobody else it could come from, because he was the only king in the land of Shinar. How about that?
Well, we don't have evidence that that's true, and the actual Y chromosome data doesn't support that.
For any of this. What are you talking about?
The DNA evidence. What are you talking about?
The DNA, every time anyone tries to roots it in a way that makes your explanation impossible.
It's historical. Nimrod is a king of the whole world at the time of the first civilization.
You're confusing mythohistory with
it's not mythohistory. It's not mythological. It's real history.
But here's the thing: even if it were real history, it would still be mythical. And it's mythical.
It's written history that we do have from the Babylonians, from the Assyrians, from the people, from the time.
Except we also have writings that don't agree from other places.
It's not stuff we made up. It's not stuff we made up.
But it also doesn't.
If you could do me a favor and pass this on to Erica, in one of her latest videos, I think she did a hangout on her channel celebrating 5,000 subscribers. By the way, congratulations, Erica. Could you let her know that she was looking for a mechanism for intelligent design, that I know what the mechanism is?
You know what? I will let her know right now. Hold on a second.
Tell her I said that it's intelligence. That's the mechanism. It's intelligence.
Okay, but I'm going to tell you right now, she's just going to say, ha, 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 and then I'm going to say, yeah, that's not it.
Honestly, I would appreciate if she comes in here and laugh at me and then give me a reason why it's funny.
I mean, it's
funny to laugh is another thing to articulate why it's funny.
It's funny. Let me explain why it's funny, right?
Sure.
It's sort of like if I said, okay, I think that, and we're going to use something that we definitely agree is designed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that my computer was put together via an intelligent design as to where everything needs to go. The mechanism was some small Allen wrenches and a tiny screwdriver, not intelligence. The mechanism were the actual tools that physically put it together, not the intent behind it.
That's not what I said, my friend. What I said was this, okay? That the mechanism behind intelligent design was intelligence. That's all I said. And you need, hold on a minute. You need intelligence in order to have a bang, do all of, in order for that expansion, let me get technical, but in order for that expansion to be able to do all of the things that the Big Bang people actually believe actually happened. And then you need intelligence in order to get your first living cell, because there ain't a scientist on planet Earth that knows where the first replicating cell came from. What they have is guesses in their imagination. So you need intelligence for that. So tell her why she's laughing at me, that she has to give me a better explanation than what I just got finished saying.
Well, okay,
I know
do you realize
the big words that she used, but when it comes to this topic, I know my stuff, bro. I know.
But do do you recognize why, when asked for the mechanism that allows intelligent design to result in biodiversity, saying intelligence doesn't answer that question?
Yes, it does. And the answer is for me, raw jungle jargon. There's so many other people watching this program today. A whole lot of people.
G-Man, think back to the bit with my computer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll let you know, I with some help in terms of the actual construction, but I planned out this computer myself, right? I picked the parts. I picked where they should go in the case, all that stuff, right? I bought the cables I needed, right? But the mechanism wasn't my planning. The mechanism was a grounding strap, a screwdriver, and some Allen wrenches.
Okay. The mechanism is the intelligence guiding the creation of the molecules and all of the things that you would need in order to create a planet, I don't know, a moon, and the various different things that you would need in space. In the same way that abiogenesis would be impossible because it breaks God knows how many different science. Matter of fact, all of it breaks so many scientific laws. It's not even funny. You know what I mean? You need an intelligence.
Actually, you know what's interesting?
Not going to break the laws of nature in order to actually create these things.
So this actually reminds me of something when you talk about breaking laws. Do you know who Sal Cordova is?
Who?
Sal Cordova. He's a young Earth creationist.
No, but somebody was telling me I need to go to Sal's channel or something like that, and Erica will show up. I don't know who that is. Who is that?
So Sal is so he is oh my goodness, now I'm blanking on the name. The guy who wrote the book Genetic Entropy. What's his name? John Sanford?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's his lab assistant. Sal Cordova is. And he just started up on YouTube, and he and I are actually gonna do a pair of sort of, I guess you could call them companion streams, except that their topics are completely unrelated. But I'm gonna go on his channel and talk about why Richard Carrier and Jesus' mythicism is silly. So I'm coming in to say, yeah, no, there's no reason to think that Jesus didn't exist.
I greatly appreciate that. I never have to debate you on that. I greatly appreciate that.
There's lots of reasons.
The intelligent design, though. But as far as intelligent design,
but the other thing is, he's going to come on my channel and talk about why second law of thermodynamic arguments fail, and why.
We talking about entropy?
Yeah.
Oh no, you don't want to have that discussion.
Well, I mean,
Underfoot and everybody else on the planet in the net when you don't want to have that discussion.
Actually, here's a question that he managed to answer correctly, and I want to know if you can.
Yeah. So,
G-Man, what are the units for entropy?
Specifically, I don't know. What are they?
Well, that's the thing. Well, at first, it's joules per degree. Well, per Kelvin. I hate that you can't use the word degree with Kelvin, but whatever, per Kelvin. Because if you say degrees Kelvin, you're technically wrong, and that's one of those areas where I look at scientists and I'm like, could you guys just be less annoying? Just let people say degrees Kelvin. Anyway, that's a completely different rant. But the thing is, most people, actually, I've never met anyone who knows enough about thermodynamics to be able to define entropy in a way that actual thermodynamics does, who also makes the second law argument.
Entropy means that things degrade over time. Do you disagree with that?
Yes, that's the problem. That's not what that means.
Okay, great. So that's not what it means. Define it. And put it in layman's terms so everybody here can understand it.
So
entropy degrade over time. I want you to remember you said that now.
Genetic entropy. Define genetic entropy.
Well, first I'm going to define entropy in thermodynamics, because that was the first question. Then after that, we'll see about genetic entropy. Although I do have to go in probably an hour or less because I have to set up for my own show.
All I need is a definition.
So entropy, broadly defined in layman's terms, is the amount of the amount of energy in a system which is unavailable to do work.
Okay. So you're saying that has nothing to do with degrading things over time, right?
Well, there are connections in that.
So the thing is that in evolution, things are going to get better over time. Then is that what you're saying?
Well,
basically, loss of
evolution doesn't deal in an absolute better. It deals in reproductive fitness in a particular environment.
Are you saying that over time things get better, or do things get worse over time?
Over time, two things happen in biology. Biodiversity will tend to increase, and organisms will tend to evolve to be adapted at reproducing in their environment. Whether you call that better or worse is a judgment call on your part.
Well, here's my problem with that statement. Okay, number one, we know that chimpanzees, I don't know about chimpanzees, But as far as orangutans go, because I believe they're supposed to be our closest relative,
No, that would actually
gorillas and a lot of these primates are supposed to be so much stronger than human beings. And they also have all of this fur to keep them warm during the winter. But human beings have lost their fur, according to evolutionists, and we have dramatically lost a lot of our strength.
Yep.
That's not getting better. That's getting worse. But you're saying that we're supposed to be getting better. So
G-Man,
hold on a minute. Why clothes?
I'm not saying that.
Okay, so things are getting worse then over time.
No, they're not necessarily getting worse either. Better or worse is a subjective evaluation that you can make, but evolution doesn't care about whether or not you think something's better or worse. All that matters in evolution is fitness, and if the fitness peak shifts to something you feel emotionally to yourself is worse, evolution won't care. It'll still send organisms in that direction over time.
Science doesn't deal with subjectivity. Science deals with the facts.
Exactly, which is why no one is saying. Which is why evolution is.
Wait a minute. It's either things degrade over time or things get better over time. If you're arguing that things get better, we need to start talking about the animal kingdom and why they are not getting better. We need to talk about human beings and why we're not getting better. We're actually getting dumber through the years. We need to talk about quite a few things and why things are getting better.
But
as a matter of fact,
evolutionary biology is.
Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. Because if I'm not mistaken, carbon 14 actually, you actually lose that over time, right? And this is what we actually do in science. That's what cracks me up about this, right? And you're saying that the second law of thermodynamics doesn't teach that things degrade over time, even though we see the sun degrading.
Actually, I didn't say that because when I started to get
so what is it then? Because I said that it was.
So here's what that means. What it means is that in any given system that is isolated, the amount of energy available to do work will go down or stay the same over time, which means that over time, the amount of additional work that can be done by the system goes down. If you consider that degrading, then I guess isolated systems degrade, but science isn't in the business of making some kind of value judgment as to whether more work is better.
That sounds like word salad to me. That's what that sounds like. It sounds like
that means you don't know enough about thermodynamics to make the argument.
No. You're not going to be able to run to that because most scientists would agree with me, and I'm going to prove that. Don't worry. But secondly, what caused the bang?
The Big Bang?
I also believe in cause and effect, and I believe that that's a law of nature. So what caused it?
You're asking about the Big Bang, right?
Yeah. What caused it? Scientifically speaking, explain to me scientifically speaking, in order for us to take the bang seriously, what caused the bang?
I don't know.
Where did the original matter and energy come from?
Well, there was no original matter, but I don't know.
Okay, so we don't know where the original matter came from.
There was no original matter. It was all energy.
Okay, so you're telling me it was energy that got really hot. So it wasn't hydrogen.
No, it didn't get really hot. It was really hot at the start of the Big Bang. Whether or not there was a previous state in which it wasn't hot, I don't know. What
formed the energy for it to get hot?
Where did it come from? Where did the energy come from?
I don't know.
You see, everything about the evolutionary worldview without intelligence goes against the laws of nature. It goes against the laws of logic. It goes against a lot of different things.
Let's pick a law of nature that it goes against.
It just does. No. First, let's admit that it is unscientific for a person to claim that the Big Bang is actually science. If you admit that, that's the laws of logic.
So the modern cosmological, which is sort of like, it's not even the Big Bang anymore because the model has progressed on, but it's like I can't even remember it. It has something to do with the inflation and the decay rate of the cosmic microwave background radiation. But I don't remember the name of it. We'll just call it the Big Bang. However, once we accept that, in the last decades, there have been some serious updates that have taken into account some new data, which is how science works, we'll just call it the Big Bang, even if that's a bit anachronistic at this point. The Big Bang is not...
Big Bang is because we don't know where the energy came from. We don't know how it heated up. We don't know what caused the expansion. Therefore, Big Bang is not science.
G-Man, you know about the germ theory of disease, right?
The germ theory of disease? No. Maybe not the way that you do.
The germ theory of disease is the theory that infectious diseases are primarily caused by parasitic microbes, which can transfer from one host to the other, then spread through whatever parts of the body they do well in. So, for instance, when you get a cold, the microbial parasite is a rhinovirus that you got from someone else.
Right.
But the germ theory of disease, now, I think you would broadly say that you accept the germ theory of disease, right? You think that viruses and bacteria can infect people and they can make them sick, and you can pass that to other people.
Scientifically proven. We're talking about
But the thing is, the germ theory of disease doesn't tell us where germs come from.
No, that's not necessarily true.
But it literally doesn't, though. There's nothing in the germ theory of disease that explains the origin of germs.
Have you looked at alternative health at all?
I do look into alternative health.
We can talk about that some other time, but I just disagree with that because I don't necessarily go with conventional medicine. I actually go with alternative health as well. So we have to get into that another day. But as far as the bang came from, how did all this energy heat up to expand?
What I'm trying to explain by reference to the germ theory of disease is that because a theory doesn't tell you where its subject comes from, doesn't invalidate the theory.
Okay. So jungle jargon. Are you there, jungle jargon?
Yeah.
So we don't need to explain where God comes from no more, right? Ever again, right?
I've never asked you to.
Nor do we need to explain how he does things. They should just be able to accept that he said it. Right?
There's a difference there, though, because once you say he did a particular thing.
No. You want to be fair, my friend. In the future, I want to debate you on whether or not God exists, and I'm going to use science. Wait a minute. That's
G-Man,
God exists.
G-Man, in order to debate me on that, you would have to know whether or not I believe that God exists.
Are you an atheist? Yes or no?
I don't answer that question.
You don't answer it? Okay. Do you think that the God of Abraham, Isaac,
you don't know, right?
I don't answer that question.
Oh, okay. So you're an agnostic atheist then?
I didn't say that either.
So what are you then? Give me a positive statement.
I don't answer questions about my personal religious views.
Okay.
And
are you a theistic evolutionist?
I don't answer that question.
Are you an idolater, or you believe you give the glory to magical matter?
I don't answer that question.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So I don't got to prove nothing to you then until you actually come clean to me with what you actually believe in.
You don't.
Or I assume that you believe if you start telling me I got to prove he exists.
You certainly don't have to prove that God exists to me.
I don't got to prove that. You're not going to.
One is the Dapper Dino is a personality who appears on YouTube and sometimes on Twitter to talk about certain topics.
Right.
There's a real dude who's currently sitting in a chair who has his own opinions about things like metaphysics, the existence of God, the afterlife, and things like that.
All right.
But he has those conversations separate from his discussions that the Dapper Dinosaur has.
Right. So, they're two separate characters, right? So I get and I understand because I'm G-Man and then I got my real life that I have outside of YouTube.
So G-Man, if you and I as actual people interacting were to meet and hang out, grab lunch or something, and then you wanted to have a conversation with the real guy sitting here in a chair, or as in this case, I would be wherever we were, that might happen because I do have those kinds of conversations with some people.
All right.
Don't have
when I'm talking to you that you're not willing to have those conversations, and that's all fine and well. But again, in order for the Big Bang to actually be considered science, we have to know where this energy came from. Now, you might not be able to. No,
we don't. We only have to show that it matches the data and explains. All we have to do to say the Big Bang is scientific is to say, okay, first hurdle, is it falsifiable? Are there a set of observations which would disprove it? Yes, there are. That's the first hurdle. That's not all it takes.
The next hurdle, I don't believe that energy, got bored one day and just decided it wanted to expand. Like I got to know how it got hot. Typically, if I want something to get hot, I get my hands or whatever. When I do the Tapmayati thingy, the Missy Miyagi thingy, my hands will get really hot. You rub together your cells and they'll really get hot and everything. But how does energy get really hot to the point that it expands at the rate that Big Bang people are talking about it does? And they say they don't know.
I'm gonna keep answering how the Big Bang can be scientific. Okay. So the first hurdle is falsifiability. It very easily passes that because if, say, all distant galaxies were blue shifted, we know they were approaching us, and that would negate the idea that they were all expanding. So falsifiability, check. The next one is, does it explain previous data that was otherwise not given an adequate explanation? Yes. It explains the redshift it explains the whole idea of Hubble's constant, that redshift is related proportionally to the distance of the object. So the closer something is, the less redshifted it is, and certain very close objects are even blue shifted, like the Andromeda Galaxy. It explains this. Now, does it predict new data? The answer is yes.
Well, I'll tell you what. If all of that can be done with the Big Bang, then it wouldn't be considered science. At that point, I can argue that it's faith, and I can actually argue intelligent design at that point. But I can't argue science that you need observation.
Science is involved.
You need observation and experimentation for it to actually be science, and there's no observation going on. I never saw this event happen. I don't think Jungle Jargon's ever seen it. I know you never saw it. I think we're too young to have seen something like that happen.
I'm 150 million years old, buddy.
Something like that, you know.
But anyway, the reason that there are observations is because we don't need to observe the specific event itself. If we can make predictions based on the idea that the event happened, and then we can check to see if those predictions are true, then we can say that that supports our original hypothesis. So, for instance, this is what happens in crime scene investigation, right? So, like, you ever see Dexter, the TV show?
Yeah, Dexter, the little kid in the laboratory. I bet you guys.
No, not that one. The serial killer one.
Oh no, never seen that one. No.
Okay, well, I'll use it anyway because it's pretty easy to understand. So in that show, his job is he's a blood splatter analyst, right? So he goes into murder scenes and he takes a look at the way that the blood has splattered, and then he tries to use things like known blood splatter patterns as well as experiments in a lab using a simulated head with blood or whatever, right? And he strikes it in different ways to check the blood patterns, right? And he does this in order to help reconstruct the actual murder that occurred. He doesn't need to watch the murder happen in order to solve the case. Similarly, if you're trying to investigate in science something that you're not observing happening right now, if you can make predictions about what future data you'll get based on your hypothesis, and then that data is actually matches your prediction, that it doesn't confer, but it helps support your hypothesis. So for instance, when we say, if the Big Bang occurred, then there should be a cosmic microwave background radiation that's somewhere around 3 degrees, or sorry, I was about to say 3 degrees Kelvin, but 3 Kelvin, and then you check, and that did happen, which did, that supports the original hypothesis of the Big Bang. Okay,
I understand that. So why do you reject Kent Hovind's predictions for the creation of the universe and the diversity of life here on Earth?
I'm not. Well, I mean, I don't remember him making very many specific predictions about future data that have been that data has then been checked for.
I don't know if Jungle Jargon wants to do it, but you can look at his opening statement for his debate with what was it? Those three college professors, and he made several predictions.
Oh, that's one of those older ones, right?
Yeah, he made several predictions. As a matter of fact, I believe in all of his opening statements, because I know some people in your camp believe that he's using a script, but he's constantly talking about his predictions. As a matter of fact, in his seminar, he's making a bunch of predictions.
3-on-1. This is from, I think, yeah, this is.
Going back to the DNA argument, you know what I mean, and entropy, and the thing that we were talking about, one could actually prove that Adam and Eve actually existed. Well, reasonably could prove that Adam and Eve existed. That it did happen, and that mankind got progressively worse over time. That can be proven historically, and that can be proven using DNA. Actually,
so let's see
mutations too. Actually,
G-Man, I just found that actual debate, and I have his slides pulled up, so we can actually look at these specific predictions. Okay, so I predict the universe will show evidence of order and intelligent design. That is an interesting one. I don't know of any place where he's articulated exactly what that would look like.
In all of the video,
but I will say that generally speaking, when intelligent design arguments have been put up to scrutiny, they either tend to be trivial or to fail.
Give me one.
Well, for example, one argument was that irreducibly complex organs or structures can't evolve. They simply can. That's just not true.
Yeah, but they can be guided though.
They can be guided, but that's something that can happen. Is not an
agent. They can.
I didn't say they couldn't, but that something could be logically possible isn't evidence that it's a thing.
Yes,
right?
It is. Yes, it is.
No. Are you aware of Russell's teapot?
I want to know if you're aware that you're not the only person that can be a judge on what qualifies as evidence and what doesn't. I didn't say that to be mean, but there's a lot of other people out there that are watching this, and they will watch this in the future and heard this in a gajillion times that will tell you that you're definitely not the only person.
Oh wait, no, G-Man. Do you know about Bruce? This is actually something that came up last week on my channel. Bruce is my small black dragon that lives in my refrigerator, and he helps me pickle vegetables.
Okay. I don't know Bruce. I don't live here.
What kind of argument is that? Is that an argument from where power comes from? What kind of argument is that?
Also dragons.
Is me stating that this is a possibility evidence that Bruce really exists?
No, that's like your fantasy historical evidence.
Okay. Well, then saying that intelligence.
But we're not talking about what has no. We're talking about what has evidence.
And
we have evidence of an invisible maker of everything there is. That's what we have evidence of.
I am saying that intelligence could guide evolution isn't evidence that it did.
We have evidence that everything came from God. Everything came from. Nothing can make itself.
Even if we accept that that's the case,
nothing can direct itself.
Even if we accept that,
it did not come from intelligence. Where did the replicating cell come from? How did it come to be? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe an intelligence created the whole human, and maybe not an actual tiny little first cell.
Well, no, that definitely didn't happen. But if you want to say that intelligence created the first cell,
no, it did happen. That's why me and you are here today.
It absolutely did not.
No, it did happen.
No,
you can't.
If it happened, it happened in a way.
I can actually prove mine.
If it happened in a way such that it looked exactly as if it didn't happen.
No, it did happen. It's just that you lack the faith to believe it. That's all. But you have the faith to believe that it didn't, though, because you can't prove otherwise. You can't prove using science to prove.
Well, science isn't in the business of proving things, but it is in the business.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Say that again. Science is not in
the business of proving things. It's in the business of providing support for.
That's not true. Hold up a minute before we go any further. That is who told you that? That's not true. Science is not the business of proving things.
Yeah.
I can use science right now to prove something right now.
Go for it.
Okay, cool. I can prove that using observation and experimentation, that oil and water does not mix.
Okay.
Would you like to see an experiment?
Yeah.
Okay, so go in your house right now and get water and pour it in your cup. Then go get some dish soap and then pour it in there and then try to get it to mix.
Wait, I thought we were talking about oil.
It won't happen.
Okay.
Because one molecule is bigger than the other.
Okay.
And you can prove that. I can prove to you that water will smother fire and put a fire out. And I can prove that over and over. Or you can go to your fire department and have them explain.
What if the next time it doesn't?
No, it does, and it never will. The only time we don't see that happening is when it's an electrical fire. All right. So the bottom line is, at the end of as a matter of fact, water will make an electrical fire actually worse sometimes. That's why they use carbon dioxide to smother it.
I know. I was an electrician on a fire team in the Navy.
How do you feel about Aaron Ross saying that evolution's a fact? I'm curious. How do you feel about Aaron Ross saying evolution's a fact?
Well, first, I would like to be able to stick to a topic, but I guess I'll answer the question. Aaron Ra is correct that there is a fact of evolution, and then there is also the theory of evolution, which explains the fact.
Oh my God. Okay, wait a minute. So science can't prove nothing, but it's a fact. And what dictionary are you using so I can go buy that dictionary? What dictionary were you using?
Which one would you like to?
I would like to use a Webster's. I want to show you. I want you to explain to me how something is a fact, and because it's a fact, it doesn't mean it's proof.
So, in science, what a fact is generally the data points that are used in experiments or observations. So, for instance, one of the facts in science is, for example, just the measurements that you take, say, of a fossil if you're doing paleontology, or just the actual gene sequence that you get when you sequence something's genome. Another kind of fact is something that is so likely to be true based on the evidence that to believe it is not true would require some kind of perversity.
Okay. So again, if something is a fact, then you can actually prove that the fact is true. And I want to just believe somebody in live creation myth said, hold on a minute. Creation myth says, don't put out an oil fire with water, please. I already gave two examples, an electrical fire and I gave a regular fire. One of them, the regular fire is with water, and the other one's with carbon dioxide. I never talked about an oil fire. So
wait, carbon dioxide.
Later on, I don't want to go on this channel later on saying I said that or whatever.
Carbon dioxide doesn't burn.
Carbon dioxide will smother a fire, though.
Oh, yes, it will. That will absolutely that. Although that's a dangerous way to put out a fire.
And that can be proven over and over and over again scientifically.
It can't be proven, though.
Gravity. Hold on.
Next time it doesn't.
Hold on a minute. I can prove that if a human being jump, they're going to fall back down. Let's see how many times you can do this experiment. So hold on a minute.
You can do it infinite times.
Wait, hold on a minute. Here we go. Here we go. I think it's reasonably true that if I jump up, I'm going to come down, and you can prove this over and over and over and over again. Where are you getting this stuff that you can't prove anything?
G-Man, you just jumped about 15 times by my count. Maybe I'm off a bit.
Yeah. What comes up must come down. I'm sorry, Isaac.
Here's the thing. You literally cannot prove from a logical standpoint that you would have come down the 16th time.
I'm gonna prove scientifically speaking that if I drop this pencil 3 times, it's gonna fall 3 times.
No.
1. Check this out. Look. 2. Hold on.
3. Yeah. But G-Man, what you're not doing is proving. What you're doing is further confirming an already well-established theory.
Like I said, man, stop telling people that science can't prove anything. And you want to know what else I find interesting? Now, this might not be you that's doing this jungle jargon. You've been around just as long as I have, right? Atheists are always asking us to give them scientific proof that God exists. Not you, Daber, not you, right? Jungle jargon. Atheists are always asking us to give them scientific proof that God exists, but they believe that science can't prove anything.
Yeah, and if I prove it, they don't. But
I would agree with you that anyone who asks for
even though you can do it all day long, you can prove that what comes up must come down unless that planet doesn't have no gravity like the moon or whatever. You know what I mean? So
creationist is right. Hypothesis testing is about disproving proposed explanations, not proving them.
Oh man, this is funny.
Because science can disprove things.
No, science is about validating what you can absolutely know for certain.
No,
because that's what science is. Science is knowing. That's what science is all about.
Argument for
know the truth. You can know the truth that only your maker can remake you. You can know that for a fact.
The attempted argument from etymology aside, science isn't about proving things. It is about disproving things, and then by disproving alternative hypotheses, you provide support for still viable hypotheses.
Wait a minute. Did you just say science is about disproving things?
Yes. Because
let me make sure I can say that one more time. Science can disprove things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, prove. Cool. Show me how science has disproved the existence of God.
Never has. I don't expect it to.
Yeah, because science can't do it because that's why God exists.
Wait
a minute. And according to your line of argumentation, if science can't disprove anything, I'm sorry, if science is supposed to disprove everything, then somebody's got to use some science to prove that my God isn't real, because if they can't do it, then everybody who's into science needs to start saying that Jesus is Lord. Every last one of you start doing it.
I'm not here to disprove or to even dissuade you from believing in God. I'm perfectly happy.
Do you use science to prove evolution, or do you use science to disprove evolution? I'm just curious.
We use science to disprove competing hypotheses.
But you're trying to disprove known human history, though.
Did you learn that recently in school, or is that like the newest thing that's going on or whatever right now?
Just because you try to prove known human history doesn't mean you do.
Okay.
So anyway, I would debate I will debate anybody on the internet to debate me on whether or not science has been used to prove things, and only and versus only being used to disprove things that goes against the statement. So I would love to debate anybody on YouTube on that one. That would be the quickest 2-minute debate I ever had in my life. Anybody on the internet.
Tell you what, G-Ben, are we? I know we've connected on some platform. Was it just via email, or was it on Twitter, or what?
I think I was on your channel. I think wasn't that
you were on my channel? Did I email you again?
I wonder if Creation Myth has studied up on the Y chromosome. See if he has anything to say about the Y chromosome and the historical origin of the CY chromosome, which is African.
To click on Bill Nye the Science Guy is not even funny, because he would say totally different.
But G-Man, I'll tell you what,
I'm not even going to go there. Like I said, I win that thing in 2 minutes.
G-Man, what I was trying to say is I am not sure how we ended up being in contact before when you were on my channel, but what I am saying now is
Erica, you did an after show on my debate with Erica.
what I've been saying is I don't know if we connect on Twitter or email or what, but I'll tell you what. Do you have a Twitter account?
I have an email.
You have an email? Okay. Put your email in the private chat, and we can try to set up a debate on whether or not science proves things.
Oh yeah, it does.
Science is what you can verify. The correct meaning of science, not the distorted meaning. The correct meaning of science is what you can absolutely verify for a fact, for certain.
All right, that's when we're gonna get into that dictionary jungle jargon. He's
Hold on
gonna
a second.
debate.
That's my dictionary. That's my dictionary term of science. Is what you can know.
Right. G-Man, I do not have your email down. I think I might already have it in my address book, but I'm not sure.
Private chat. Go to the private chat.
Yeah, no, I saw it there. I copied it into a new window, so now I've got it. Okay, so thank you for that.
And if you can't know anything, it's no good anyways.
Jungle jargon, one of the problems is that the verificationist model of science has long been abandoned because it fails.
Because it proves God. Because it proves God absolutely exists for a fact.
But Jungle jargon, you do realize that most scientists aren't out there in an effort to disprove God.
Yeah, well, they would like to.
I certainly wouldn't like to.
Most of them, a lot of them, would like to disprove science, and that's what they live their life trying to do.
Well, I mean, we have a virologist and genetics professor here. If you thought it would actually work.
Anyway, I know you two was having a great conversation before I got in here. I'm going to leave Daber. Eddie. We're going to have fun. DNA proves that God exists. Look at mutation.
It'll probably have to end up being tomorrow or something when I hit you up because I've just got a show later on and I'm going to be beat. So I'll probably email you tomorrow or something. Does that work for you?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the link.
Yep.
Oh, hey, Creationist says most scientists are theists. That doesn't seem unlikely to me.
Okay, here we go. Try this again. There it is.
I know I have seen studies on religiosity in scientists, and I do think that was what it said, but I don't remember exactly what the actual numbers were, so I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh yeah, it's definitely this. But I do believe the creationist myths is broadly correct that the majority of scientists do believe that there is one or more God that exists. So, yeah, I do significantly disagree with the proposition that scientists in general would like to disprove God. I think most scientists don't think that it's a productive area of research. I think most of them think it would probably be impossible to use science to prove anything, but I do think that most scientists will probably say that you can't use the scientific method to really successfully investigate the existence of God, with possibly some exceptions. I hope every year is educational, G-Man. I want 2021 to be educational. I want 2022 to be educational. I feel like 2020 was educational in all the wrong ways. But what are you going to do about that? There was a survey at some point. Scientists in general are less religious than the general population, but still a majority are theists. Yep. Actually, I do a lot of paleontology stuff, and some of my favorite paleontologists are definitely theists. In fact, yeah, it's definitely true. That science generally doesn't make statements about God. The most science can really do ultimately is say this particular idea about God might be wrong. So, for instance, if you think that Thor sends down lightning, science can say, well, lightning is generated in a natural way, and we can explain to a large degree how that happens. And it doesn't seem to require.
But Thor. There is such a thing. There is such a thing as lightning, though, right?
Well, yeah.
It is a power, right?
Well, I mean, it
does affect people's lives, don't it? Doesn't it? Sometimes, or can.
I think I missed some of that. Sorry, go back again.
So lightning is a real thing that can and does affect people's lives.
Yeah.
Okay. Same thing with a volcano too, right?
Right. But
okay. So they're called powers, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what a God is. God is a power. And all power comes from a greater power. All power comes from God. Boom. Proof of God.
Okay. I mean, if you want to define God in the vaguest way, such that God
It's
is
not vague. It's specific.
what you basically just told me was that God is energy, and
No, it comes from God. Comes
well,
from God.
I
All
mean,
power, all energy comes from a greater source.
okay, I don't really care to dispute that because it doesn't
Oh,
really change any scientific conclusions.
what do you mean?
Look,
It proves God. What are you
okay,
talking about?
but that proving, even if you were to even if I were to say that statement proves God, and let's say that I accept it and it's true, that doesn't falsify the Big Bang, it doesn't falsify evolution, it doesn't make the Earth young, it doesn't mean that the flood happened. None of that
Doesn't
actually
explain
follows.
where the energy is coming from, right?
Well, it's a claim about where the energy is coming from, and that's great.
No, it's an observation that all power has to come from a greater power.
I dispute that has been observed.
Yeah, of course it's observed all the time. Try charging your phone from an equal amount of power.
Like from another phone?
No,
Because I
from
can
an
do
equal amount of electrons. If you have a battery that has an equal amount of electrons, you think it's going to charge your phone?
that. A battery that has an equal amount of electrons.
No. It has to have more electrons in the battery so that it'll flow into your phone to charge it up.
Batteries don't store energy by piling up electrons. You know that, right?
Yes, they do. It's not a positive. We have electrons. We don't use positrons, and we don't use positive ions. We use electrons for batteries.
Ions are used for current carrying. And second, batteries are.
That's not what I said. I said what we use is electrons, not ions.
But no, batteries are a chemical storage device. They store
Electrons. We store electrons in batteries to charge up your phone.
But that's not actually true.
Of course it is. It is actually true. Yeah, apparently you don't know what I'm talking about, but you can't charge your phone if the battery you're charging from has an equal amount of charge that your phone has. Come on, it's not complicated. Wake up.
I'm just going to say, as someone who has spent about a decade as a professional electrician and in military and industrial capacities.
And you still don't know that you have to have a greater charge in your battery to charge your phone?
You do need to have a charge, but charging up a battery isn't.
Don't come on, please. Don't give me that. You're going to make yourself out to be a troll or something. Literally,
a battery is not a bucket of electrons. That's not what's happening.
Of course it is.
I don't even know what to say at this point. Jungle, that's yes.
How do you think you get electrons into your phone from a battery?
I haven't heard from Lena in a while, and I would like for her to be able to finish her question.
Yeah. Okay.
Do that.
Yeah, because I'm about fed up speaking stupid, childish things to you anyway.
Okay, so Lena, what was the question?
So I will put a link in the side chat.
Okay. In the chat.
No, I gotta explain
in the public
chemistry
one.
to Dan.
Okay.
Jungle, JJ.
Yeah.
JJ, can you would you please share that link?
Oh, what link?
The one that I have put in the public chat.
Oh, this one. Oh, I have to go find it. Hold on a second.
I can also put it in the private chat.
I think what do you call it?
So, yeah, I guess Lena did it too. So that's in the. And by the way, I do have about 20-ish minutes left, and then I do have to get going.
Yeah, well, I mean, despite what I just said, thanks for participating.
I mean,
have you ever guys seen the new America's Cup vessels?
The new I don't think I have.
Sailing ships.
Oh, there's new sailing ships?
Absolutely. You want to see them?
Sure.
Yeah, hold on a second. Let me copy this link here. Um, okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
Because we have started with the Indo-European Wahaimat.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
and
my biggest problem with the Caucasus Mountains idea is that the current languages of the Caucasus Mountains are not very Indo-European-y. So one of the things is when you look at Indo-European, you get these certain very characteristic things. Like for instance, you get nearly universal nominative accusative alignment in argument construction, whereas the Caucasus Mountains languages tend to have a split ergative, where most arguments feature ergative absolutive alignment, and then usually in first person, especially with what do you call it? With transitive verbs, it switches to nominative accusative alignment, which is, I don't know of any Indo-European languages that do that. You also get things like sort of the 5 to 8 case system that's pretty common. And even in languages, in modern Indo-European languages, like most of the Romance languages or English, where the case system has largely eroded away, you still get remnants of it, especially in pronouns.
in German
as well as,
and in Russian and in Polish, there are the cases.
yeah,
Yeah.
those languages have retained a very strong case system, as well as Romanian. Romanian is the only Romance language that still has a pretty strong case system. Greek still has a pretty strong case system, whereas the case systems that do exist in the Caucasus Mountains usually don't follow the same basic categories, because Indo-European cases have, you get a nominative, accusative, a dative, a genitive. There's usually some kind of locative. Sometimes there's an ablative. And then over time, sometimes some of these things get combined. So for instance, sometimes the accusative will take on like ablative functions, which happened in Latin. And I think it happened in some Slavic languages, but don't quote me. I don't know a whole lot about Slavic languages.
Polish.
So, did it happen in
and
Polish?
Russian. Yeah, and Russian.
Okay, they use okay. For some reason, I think there's one that still has a distinct ablative, but I might be wrong about that. Anyway, but so for reasons like this, just based on the basic kind of underlying grammar, I feel like the Caucasus Mountains languages, you'd have to explain why they only exist there, basically, and how they replaced Indo-European languages in the Caucasus Mountains, while the Indo-Europeans replaced other languages almost everywhere else. And that just seems like, I can't say it didn't happen, but it's one of those things where it's like, it just doesn't seem like the most likely explanation. I have it here. I can pull it up on my screen share if you want, Jungle Dragon.
okay.
Give me 1 second while I start that up. Okay. And I'll actually zoom in a little bit so it's easier to read, because
Okay, let me go back. Go back here. Okay, where are we? Here.
Yep. So so this is a paper or an article, I don't know, about history of Indo-Europeans, migrations, and language. And basically the main thesis is that the Caucasus Mountains are the location for the original speakers of what we reconstruct as Proto-Indo-European. And then they would have spread out here. And I guess presumably these other peoples that speak what we now call the Caucasian languages or the Caucasus Mountains languages would have moved in and then displaced the Indo-Europeans. And so what I was saying about that is that the reason I find it unlikely is because the Caucasus Mountains languages are so distinct from general Indo-European languages. They're usually not recovered as Indo-European languages. So what we normally see with the spread of Indo-European is that it basically displaces other language groups. It didn't do that in all places. For instance, the Hittites, you see them, they spoke an Indo-European language, and they were largely displaced later by Semitic-speaking peoples. And of course, modern Anatolia here is mostly Turkic languages, which are not Indo-European.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
but they have displaced the Byzantines. Yeah.
the
they
Byzantines
have displaced. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So while there are some cases where non-Indo-European languages are displaced here and there, it's pretty uncommon, and it's hard to see why in this sea of Indo-European languages that the homeland of the Indo-European languages would then have Indo-European languages so thoroughly displaced. So I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying the Kurgan hypothesis, I think, remains more likely. So look, maybe.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, that's all I've got. Is it's a maybe, but I find it unlikely. So.
Okay, and what I wanted to ask you, because you are very knowledgeable on history, have you been confronted with the history of the Britons written by Nennius? Or do you know about this old collection of history, of history records about...
Sorry, my alarm went to go off. So I don't think I've read that particular work. Although when you say the Britons, are you Briton or Breton?
ETON. Wait
Okay.
a second. I will post it. It Historia Britonum in Latin.
Okay.
I will post it in the private chat, and it is written by, or at least we think that it is written by Nennius.
Let's. So, oh come on! I just copied it. I swear. Sometimes I think my Control-C key keys just don't work. Let's see. By Nennius, yeah. I have not read this, so I can't really speak.
Me neither, but I have read about it.
I'm more familiar with the Venerable Bede's Ecclesiastical History of the English People.
Okay.
Which is
okay. Mm-hmm.
That was so the Venerable Bede was a British monk, and he recorded the history of the English people up until like I think what was it, like the 13th or 14th century? I'm not sure. I'm sorry, I don't remember how far up it goes. But it does include a few interesting things, like it includes the first known hymn in the English language. So that's fun. Also, certain editions of it have interesting marginalia that also give us extra information. There's also a very good Old English translation that was actually one of my source documents for one of my projects when I was getting my history degree. I went to the Anglo-Saxon version of Venerable Bede's history, but unfortunately I'm not very familiar with this particular one. Although now that it's been brought to my attention, I may change that, because it also does not seem to be terribly long. Yeah, I'll have to read that, because that doesn't look very long at all. It looks like it would be like a couple hours.
And there is also about the Irish people, the Irish kings. There is also a very old book which is called the Book of Invasions, and they have something like the history of the Four Masters or something like that. But what is interesting there are the genealogies of the kings.
Yeah. I'm a direct descendant. I'm a direct descendant of every Irish king.
Yes, and what is interesting that these genealogies, they are quite similar to the to what is recorded about the genealogies of the kings of Denmark, like the Danish ones, the Norwegian ones, and the kings in Iceland, and so on and so on. It is extremely interesting because they are not identical, but they are similar, and they go back to the flood of Noah. But just take a look. I know that you will say afterwards that it is maybe a forgery.
Oh, I doubt it's a forgery. No, I would be. So look, forgeries do occur, but they usually don't last very long, because it's usually not impossible to detect that something's a forgery. For instance, recently, like a few years ago, there was all this coverage about a supposed gospel of Jesus's wife, and it turns out to have just been an obvious forgery. And basically everyone who looked at it, who actually had expertise in the field, was like, no, this is fake. So if something has actually stood up as a historical source for a fair bit of time, it's unlikely to be a forgery. However, what is possible is that, well, the problem with genealogies in general is that they're not terribly reliable for a couple of reasons. One is people like to have genealogies written that make them look better when they are in power. And they often will then tie the genealogy back to important historical figures or important mythical figures, or even just the previous dynasty. So for instance, in like, let's say I conquer Egypt and I want to set myself up as the legitimate pharaoh. Well, it's hard to do unless I can make a claim to actually being descended from a legitimate pharaoh, because one of the parts of being pharaoh in Egypt is this supposedly divine bloodline, right? The pharaohs are supposed to be literal descendants of the gods. So if I'm not descended either directly from a god, which seems unlikely, or a previous pharaoh, then it's going to be hard for people to take me seriously as pharaoh. So I have my scribes connect me to, say, you know, a pharaoh from 500 years earlier, and problem solved. So that's the same reason why we get genealogies. So for instance, the genealogy of the emperors of Japan goes back to the Japanese moon goddess. But I don't actually think that Amaterasu is actually the legitimate great, however many times, grandmother, because I don't think that the Japanese moon goddess is actually going around having babies with people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the problems with. So those are two big problems with genealogy. Is one, they're often falsified even during historical times, just to draw connections for the sake of legitimacy. And two, they're often end up having somewhat invented mythical history when you go back far enough. So what's likely happening here, and I would have to, you know, really dig into it to come up with a really good explanation. But what's likely happening here is that various groups are, in an effort to make sure that they are seen as legitimate by their subjects, tying in their own genealogies to pre-existing genealogies, either in that part of the world or in other parts of the world. Because you have to remember that, you know, even way back into the early medieval period, royalty from different countries were marrying into each other's families to do things like form alliances or gain land claims in distant areas that might be useful for them for whatever reason, things like that, right? So these genealogies are therefore circulating. So it's not hard for someone to put themselves into a similar genealogy and have their genealogy written up. And it can be accurate to some extent, or maybe not. So some of these people may actually be related at the points where you see their genealogies converge, but they also might not be. Oh, sun gods. Yeah, you're right. It is a sun god. I'm sorry. I hate love nothing. Look, I'll be honest with you. I'm tired at this point, and I'm not looking forward to having to do my own 2-hour show after this. So my apologies there. But yeah, so I don't think forgery is the most likely explanation, but I do think that that's one of the problems we have with genealogies. It's one of the reasons why people who do ancient history tend to be suspicious of genealogies that go back after they go back more than a few generations. So, you know, the first 2 generations, there's a fair chance that's accurate. But once it starts going back farther, a lot of scholars are like,
one thing happened in England is that the Roman Church came in and destroyed all the records, and so it's kind of up in the air as to who, you know, what the genealogies are. So there's really there's not good information as to what the genealogies are going back very far.
I mean, I'm not familiar with an instance where the Roman Church came in and burned records, but I'm not familiar with all the instances in English history.
It's about 700 AD, something like that. They killed all the bishops. They killed a whole bunch, like about 700 bishops or something.
Well, there definitely was a pretty big conflict in the British Isles between the Celtic derived Christian groups and the Roman, the ones who were, you know, more directly tied to the Pope, should we say? Because the Celtic churches didn't exactly deny papal authority; they just didn't really care much about it. And interesting enough,
that's because they had their own source of Christianity.
Well, it's definitely the case that when Patrick went over, he set up his own well-established Christian church there, complete with he had several bishops ordained so that they could then go ordain their own clergy and set up a lineage of bishops there. And interestingly, the Celtic traditions actually had some interesting connections to the Christianity that was being practiced in areas like Greece or Egypt. For one thing, the Celts celebrated Easter according to the convention that's still used in, say, the Russian Orthodox or the Greek Orthodox Church. And there was actually
I don't know if you're aware, but the Christian Church was soon after even the death of Christ. There were Christians in England and in monasteries or schools of religion or school of Christianity that Joseph of Arimathea and his daughter set up or something like that in England.
Yeah. Well, another interesting thing is you can also see things like that where you get what was it? I'll do a quick search because I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
I think it was Anna of Arimathea.
Well, I was thinking of Boniface. So in a lot of histories, Boniface gets credited with bringing quote unquote Christianity to the Germanic speaking areas of Northern Europe. So like what we would now call like Germany and Austria and stuff like that. But interestingly, Christianity under the form of an Arian version of Christianity was already very well established in the area.
Yeah, they had people going back and forth between England and Germany too at that time.
Also, in the province of Kerala in India, there are churches who have a pretty decent claim to going back to at least the 3rd century and possibly the 2nd century. So yeah, Thomas is famed for going to India. Yep, the Thomas. That's also who they claim is the origin of their churches. In fact, Europeans were rather surprised to find them there.
Yeah.
The first British got there and they were like, "Oh, there's a community of Christians who are doing all the Christian things. Interesting."
Yeah, because it was the same thing in England too. They are very early on. They had churches in England. I mean, yeah, monasteries or schools of Christianity in England.
Unfortunately, I do have to get going. I hope I was at least a little bit helpful with the with my, I guess, just opinions on the origins of Indo-European and why I feel like the Caucasus Mountains is less likely than the Kurgan hypothesis.
So yeah, I'm glad that you were able to participate.
You're very welcome.
As far as sort of a historian, I'm glad you were able to participate and give your input.
Yeah, and hey, I would say anytime, but that's not technically true because there are times where I definitely can't. But if I can, then I'm happy to appear most places as long as, like today, no one was shouting or screaming or anything. And while there was more interruption than I would like, it wasn't overwhelming. So.
Yeah, well, I'll try to correct that. Maybe
it's not always easy, especially in an informal hangout. Sometimes there's delay on the speakers, and it can be tough. So, all right, I'm gonna get out of here, and I'm gonna go in a few minutes call my co-host, and we're gonna be going live on my channel. We're doing Kent with Bent, as well as a short memorial for Bullinator, who died on Saturday, and most people here might not know who he was, but he was a big part of a lot of channels. He was a producer for a lot of different shows, and a lot of the times he was just doing it because he was a stand-up guy who wanted to produce. So, so we're doing a quick little tribute for him, and then we're going to get into my normal Kent with Bent, which is basically we're just looking at Kent Hovind videos. So,
okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you were able to follow what I was saying. I think you were able to follow what I was saying pretty much.
No, yeah, I think
so. So that's basically it. I believe that the CY chromosome proves the biblical narrative, and not just biblical, but the other sources too, Jasher and other sources.
Well, I think we have more to go into on that at another time, but I do have to get going. I'll talk to you all later. Thank you for having me.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Take care. Bye.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to look at, Lena?
Not not
No,
today.
no,
There
not
is a
today.
lot. There is a lot of information we can research and take a look at, but maybe on not today. What do you think?
Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds good. Yeah, I think we covered quite a bit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you
And
very
I don't know
much,
who else
JJ.
is having a hangout. Yeah. All right, take care.
Bye.
I don't know, but there should be somebody else. There might be somebody else having a hangout or something. So I might as well cut this off since my I have a limited data anyways. It runs out every month. I can't get them to give me a decent amount of data. But anyways, thanks for the participation, everyone. Raw, Hate Love Nothing, and Lena, and Dapper Dino, and everybody else that was here. If I forget who it was, Basement Dweller, Cuttlefish, Covert Cuttlefish, and Honesty Angel was here earlier. Creation Myths was here, participating a little bit, giving his input. I don't want to say 2 cents, but his input. Um, but yeah, I'd be interested to know what Creation Myth thinks about the CY chromosome being Nimrod because it can't be anybody else. It clearly, in history, if you value historical records, actual historical records of our history from where we came from, then the CY chromosome is Nimrod. It can't be anybody else because Nimrod was Cush's son, and that means all the other Y chromosomes from Africa came from the E3, which totally turns their narrative upside down. So God bless everybody. Stay true to the source of truth, which is God, who leads us into all truth, and you can't go wrong. You'll never be let down. You'll never be disappointed by trusting in God's word.